Among virtual reality games, Dantalion is something completely new and revolutionary. Generating game elements in a random order every time makes players tremble, despite the high level of difficulty. Virtual space allows you to perfectly experience the sensations of reality. The game Dantalion leads the popularity ratings worldwide with 3 million users online. Until one day in Dantalion, strange messages about synchronization of the character with the user began to appear. With the death of the character, the player dies too. At first, the players, as usual, did not take the messages seriously, which led to the fatal ending of the game. The death of not only the characters, but also the players in real life. All over the world, those players who did not believe the system's message died. Moreover, this happened simultaneously all over the world, and those who were related to Dantalion inexplicably died from sudden cardiac arrest. No one could find a solution to this problem. The only way to end the misery is to pass the 72nd floor of the game. But the level is so difficult that no one has been able to pass it, as if that was the intention. Taeyang no choice whether to try to pass Dantalion because his younger sister Bella was stuck in this game. The guy must complete all levels, otherwise he won't be able to save his sister. The system reports that the settings are complete, and the monk class has been selected. Once Ian completes logging into the game Dantalion, his character opens his eyes. There is emptiness around January. Apparently, this is the start here. It all looks pretty simple so far. BJ's manager, aka Xena, joins the broadcast of user Yan Taeyang. In real life, Xena is a friend of Bella and Yan. In the game, she gives hints during the broadcast. Ian is surprised that the girl goes on stream dressed like that. BJ doesn't understand what's wrong with her clothes, which are a reaction to donations. It's also unclear why BJ suddenly starts changing. Xena pounds the keyboard, demanding that Ian stop his stupid fantasies. BJ, now a cartoon character, says she always streams like this. Ian points out that he never said anything. During the game, only John sees BJ, and she cannot directly influence the game, but acts as an observer. Yang Taeyang, a level 1 monk with divine power +1, asks BJ to remember only that Bella is waiting for them even now. Here, viewer B appears in the stream, surprised that there are still crazy people who come to this game. Other viewers appear after him. Grunt and African Guy think that the newbie wants to hype up or die, and the Keeper of Fools thinks that the newbie is just a slowpoke. Jan yells at Xenia, "What kind of choir of fools is this?" It's time for dinner laughs that the newbie turned on the broadcast himself, so why complain? BJ states that if John wants to beat the game, she will need their help because, in Dantalion, she won't be able to keep track of all the random settings. The audience recognizes Xena's voice and realizes that she knows the player. BJ explains that the audience is noisy, but will become Ian's navigator. Taeyang greets them. He invites everyone to watch him reach the final. In response, only a few incredulous chuckles. Then the guy checks the movements in the game. Jan is pleased to note the reaction speed, which is much better than in the game with 70 synchronization. Teen believes that there shouldn't be any particular problems. Spectators are buzzing that it usually takes newbies about an hour to master the movements. And this, apparently, was a rancor from another game. The Keeper of Fools reminds that the Skeleton Tower is the most difficult stage among the initial levels, and a beginner will get too smart and simply die here. One of the spectators, Lululala, calls this stage the most terrible. Then a bony hand appears from under the ground. Lululala notes that throughout the first stage, skeletons are the strongest monsters. Following the hand, cursed skeletons appear. Bones of dead players animated by the evil aura of the tower, which activate the curse effect when attacked. The audience laments how the newcomer failed, and how he will be able to deal with the skeletons on his own. Xena thinks it's a failure. It's not just skeletons that appear, but the damned, who are beaten by a team of 3 or 4 people. BJ yells at him not to let the skeletons hit him because their attack casts a curse. Ian assures him that there is nothing to worry about. The first skeleton rushes to attack. But Taeyang dodges and attacks back, and he was counting on a much stronger opponent. In fact, it turns out that there is nothing unusual about these skeletons. But my hands are simply on fire. That's what 99% synchronization means. Skulls fall to the ground, and the audience discusses Ian's well-oiled moves. Either he is not a beginner, or he is incredibly lucky. The Keeper of Fools bets his balls that the newcomer will soon meet his end. Jan, with a grin, assures that it was not his tricky login that reminded him. And when Taeyang destroys everyone in the game, he and his balls will be dealt with. Skeletons do not advance in orderly rows. They are rushing towards their death. Spectators notice that the game was not like that. Ian reaches the stairs with astonishing speed. As soon as he climbs it, the system announces that he has reached the second level. Ian learns from the BJs that the first floor of the Tower of the Dead extends to the third level. The audience comments on his rapid ascent. Some people think that fast players die faster. Jan asks if he should listen to the chatter of the audience all the time. She advises not to relax. The second level is considered difficult. There is a clanking sound of iron, which immediately puts BJ on alert. The armed skeletons have arrived. The remains of armed hunters with attack power 5 times greater than that of ordinary skeletons. The audience is buzzing. These mobs were the boss on the third level. No one understands why they are coming out now. BJ suggests retreating and thinking about tactics. Taeyang is surprised to hear this from Xena, who knows that he is an experienced player. If Jan is afraid of skeletons with swords, what will his reputation become? The Keeper of Fools immediately predicts the newcomer's imminent death. Ian thinks the game would be difficult if he reacted as usual. But in Dantalian, the synchronization is 99%. It seems like the reaction speed is doubled. And the skeletons look like turtles when compared to the characters Taeyang has fought before in other games. Ian blocks their attacks without any effort and crushes enemies. Jan does this one by one and methodically, remaining without a single scratch, causing the audience to delight with his physical abilities. Viewers are surprised by how easily Ian deals with the armed skeletons. BJ knows that Taeyang is good at VR games, but even she didn't expect such a perfect genocide of the armed skeletons. Meanwhile, Jan sees a door ahead and rushes towards it. The guy thinks there must be a boss there. A giant skeleton appears, which no one has ever reached before level 2. This hidden boss appears if the player reaches the door to his chambers within 10 minutes. The giant skeleton was a powerful player in life, who later turned into an undead. No one has ever been able to beat this monster. BJ is amazed by Ian's provocative audacity. She thought this monster was just a rumor. The skeleton, as if to warm up, punches the wall with its fist. Jan sees a clear demonstration of strength that far surpasses previous opponents. The guy is ready to fight. The skeleton attacks. Taeyang easily dodges powerful blows. BJ screams that the columns broken by skeleton are starting to fall. The guy thanks her. For such big guys, Jan has a special tried and tested technique. A blow to the legs is fatal for giant monsters who lose their advantage along with their balance. The skeleton is no exception. The newcomer finishes off the giant with a crushing blow at high speed. The viewer of Catch You, Catch Me will recognize this punch from the old war game King of the Fist. Now it is clear that the strongest of the strongest is in the game. The Shinkan giant, Yang Taeyang, who has been winning for 5 years in a row. Skeleton's head flies off his shoulders with one blow. Yang Taeyang remarks that he now understands what's going on in Dantalian. The audience is shocked. After a pause, there is a flurry of comments about how incredible what just happened before their eyes is. Taeyang throws the giant skeleton's skull to the ground. Before him is a gate that he opens without thinking. A foppishly dressed figure appears from the darkness. Taeyang immediately attacks, but the attack fades away without having any effect. The red-eyed stranger says that he was waiting for the player Yan Taeyang. The guy asks, who is in front of him? Earlier, another final battle of the King of Fist ended with a signature move and an unconditional victory for Yang Taeyang for the 5th time in a row. The championship staff met the player at the capsule. Jan was presented with the 5th cup in his collection. Although the hall is not crowded at all in the 5th year of the competition, the game has already lost its former popularity. January, cup in hand, looked around the empty auditorium, from where he was unceremoniously thrown out by the cleaner, who was preparing for the next game. As soon as he went outside, Taeyang immediately called his little sister. But her phone is on answering machine, which means her sister is again playing her Dantalion. A roguelike, an exit from a fantasy labyrinth. Gamers all over the world are crazy about the technology of this game, which claims that even after thousands of attempts, there will not be a single repeating element. Before this game came out, everyone was just as excited about King of Fists. In Dantalion, for 5 years since the game was released, no one has been able to reach the final, despite the colossal online. A long time ago, there was a big fire, in which their parents died. From then on, the brother and sister could only rely on each other. Ian blames himself for not being able to make up for the loss of his sister's parents, which is why she became overly interested in virtual games. But the guy believes that sooner or later Bella will be able to overcome her grief and open her heart to her brother. He knows how strong she is. When her sister texts her that she has won, Taeyang wonders if she should buy Bella her favorite snacks. Here, the attention of all passers-by is attracted by the broadcast of breaking news. There is a global emergency, a system error in the virtual game. Dantalion has claimed the lives of many users. There are currently 300 million players online. Jan's heart sinks because his Bella is playing in Dantalion. What if she is among the 20 million players who have already died? Xenia immediately calls him to urgently go to his sister. Jan rushes off, completely forgetting about his prize cup. Having run home at the same time as Xenia, the guys fly into the apartment and see that the capsule is functioning normally. Bella is alive, and all her physical indicators are within normal limits. The news continues to report on the crisis. Governments of many countries have blocked the download of Dantalion. The game still has 300 million. The CEO of Dantalion has been found dead. The chairman is missing. 20 million users worldwide have died so far. The announcer strongly recommends that they leave the game immediately, because death in the virtual world of Dantalion entails death in reality. The government is taking the necessary measures, but due to an error in the pain system, control is lost. You should go to a safe place. Xena reports that the Dantalion streamers have leaked this terrible news into the game. She thinks Bella already knows, so there's no need to worry. Players are now in a panic from the approaching monsters. No one wants to die so stupidly. Streamers also proclaim the coming of a messiah who will go through the game. And thus, it will save 300 million people around the world. Taeyang clarifies with Xena that the only way to save herself is to complete the game to the end, after which the exit will occur automatically. Xena knows that there are rankers among the stuck players. You just have to wait until they complete all the levels. At the moment, the best result in the world is only level 50. Taeyang becomes more determined to get into the game himself. Xena yells that he's crazy. Millions of people have tried to beat this game without success. Ian counters that this is why he should be the one to play. The guy has won first place in King of Fists 5 times in a row, so no one understands virtual games better than him. Xena yells that this is only true for the King of Fists part, and that Yan has never tried playing Dantalion. Taeyang is not at all embarrassed by this fact, because he has Xena. The girl in the game is already on the 38th floor, and is doing quite well at streaming. They have been friends since childhood, and both love Bella. Xena states that Ian will have to start broadcasting so she can help him. Young Taeyang is serious about smashing Dantalion to smithereens. The game's virtual world is entered using a special capsule that scans the player's physical characteristics and creates an optimal environment. There are capsules with massage and supply of nutrients during a long session. Jan has the latest model of capsule with maximum functionality. The red-eyed dandy is a rank 71 demon king who is in charge of the tower's floors 1 through 3. With a shark-like smile, the king welcomes Ian to the ever-changing game of Dantalion. Taiyang is worried that he put a lot of force into the punch, and the Demon King easily holds back his fist with just one hand. Jan jumps back. The red-eyed man states that the guy probably has a lot of questions, from who the Demon King is to why people are stuck in Dantalion. But the answers to all questions are at the top of the labyrinth. The king advises him to rise up, doing everything that Jan is capable of in the most desperate state, in suffering, sweat, and blood. The 71st rank demon does not rule out the possibility that along the way, Yang will discover what he is looking for. Taiyang yells that the king is a real son of a bitch and rushes to attack. But BJ stands in front of him and demands that he calm down. Otherwise, the guy will not be able to complete the game. The king repeats her words, snapping his fingers. 3 multicolored doors appear behind the demon. The king proclaims that John has passed the first floor of the labyrinth, and that 3 doors lead to the next floor, behind which are different tests. BJ adds that even the game's basic system doesn't provide any explanation as to what these different doors are. She offers to explain the game in simple terms. In Dantalion, and the game can be completed by reaching the top. At the end of each game level, 3 doors appear, and you can choose which one to enter to the next level. The blue door will give a boost effect on the next level that will only work on the next floor. The green door will give a recovery effect, healing all wounds received on previous floors. Behind the yellow door is a golden blessing. As a reward for the upcoming floor, you can get gold coins. Gold is the game's currency that is used at transit points. Equipment cards are purchased from merchants for gold, and after purchasing equipment, a synergy effect occurs. But players rarely choose the yellow door. If they lose on the next floor, the gold will be useless, so they go for healing or buffs. The king reminds you to choose between gold, buffs, or healing. BJ warns that the next battle will begin right outside the door. Without any hesitation, Jan chooses gold. For him, the choice is obvious because the gold will remain his, and the effects will only last while he is on this floor. At the doorway, the system announces that Ian has 3 achievements: Clearing the Tower of the Dead, Perfect Player, and Lone Player. The audience is delighted. Jan doesn't understand if this is good. BJ asks the guy to open the stats. She explains that in Dantalion, instead of the usual system of characteristics from other games, the more achievements, the greater the player's physical abilities. While there are only a few achievements, they do not play a special role. But when several dozen of them accumulate, the difference in strength will be like that between an adult and a child. BJ finds out that the guy already feels that his body has become a little lighter. Here Ian notices a monster with cubes in its paws. BJ explains that in front of them is a randomly generated non-player character. The cubes fall on the key and the labyrinth. The system reports that the stage has been entered. Lululala warns everyone to turn down the speakers. Taiyang finds himself in a prison corridor. From all sides, monsters of all possible shapes and sizes, locked behind bars, scream deafeningly. Yana understands why Lululala asked to turn down the volume of the speakers. The guards appear, seeing Taiyang as an escaped prisoner. The system demands that he find the keys, open the door, and enter the labyrinth. The senior overseer orders Jan to be captured. BJ tells us to run away first. From all sides, hands and paws reach out to Taiyang. The prisoners scream for him not to escape alone, but to free them too. BJ, clutching the guy's hair, says that it's easy to clear the labyrinth prison stage. You need to free a couple of prisoners who will fight with the guards, while John finds the keys and the entrance to the labyrinth. The main thing is to understand which of the prisoners will help them. BJ chooses a girl hanging in chains, dressed in tattered rags. She orders to collect all the keys on the floor and free the prisoner. There are a great many keys scattered about. Meanwhile, the guards are approaching. Taiyang opens the camera, and the overseer's pitchforks are almost catching up with him. But then a fragile-looking prisoner stands between him and the prison guards, and he very skillfully impales the first overseer on a pitchfork. In Dantalian, non-player characters, NPCs, come in two varieties: fantasy characters from Eden and combat characters from Changchun. These characters are the main element of the game, in which they participate on an equal basis with players. With the help of non-player characters, you can rise to the top. The NPC girl takes out the guards in no time. Then he calmly takes the keys from the corpse and throws off his shackles. Jan clarifies with Bizde that this prisoner should definitely help them. The freed woman kneels before the guy and says that she is a member of the First Knightly Order of the Kingdom of Tebe. Her name is Icardi. She is the leader of the Central Order. NPC Icardi is grateful for saving her and her sister. Icardi's younger sister is the NPC Rudy. Icardi promises to help her escape if Ian allows her to take her sister with her. Taeyang doesn't mind, and BJ points out which direction to go. But NPC Rudy objects that with BJ's route, they won't be able to reach the exit in the allotted time, and she knows a shortcut. BJ is surprised by the coherence of the NPCs, one of whom knows the hidden path. This is the first time the streamer has encountered this. The guards encountered along the way do not pose any particular problems. Xenia also periodically suggests directions. Rudy shows the way and opens locks. There are 11 minutes left, but the exit still doesn't appear. Rudy explains that the exit is around the corner on the right, but there a trio of bored guards awaits them. Icardi intends to deal with. The NPC approaches the overseers with absolute fearlessness, raises his sword above his head, and activates his skills. Icardi uses the skill Decapitating Wolf, and the next moment, the three guards are already dead, and the NPC tells them to hurry up. The audience is delighted with the NPC with a name and skills. If virtual reality can reproduce high-level movements, the game will materialize this with skills. Rudy points to the exit, which is finally looming ahead. But the doors are locked and require 3 keys. While the little girl is fiddling with the locks, threatening sounds approach from behind. The chief and largest overseer comes to the fugitives, who yells that if they surrender, they will remain alive. And if he catches the fugitives, then everything will be like last time. Judging by the expression on Icardi's face, nothing good happened then. Icardi is serious, and Rudy is starting to panic. Jan notices that the girl's hands are shaking. Taeyang asks the girl to relax and hurry. Try to think that she is at home in her bedroom, and he will take care of the supervisor. 2 minutes left. The giant warden calls the boy a rat who snuck into the prison. Instead of answering, Taeyang attacks. The opponents exchange a series of powerful blows. The prolonged fight enrages the giant, who simply waves his fists. Ian wonders if he can replicate Icardi's cool moves. BJ yells that skills don't just activate, it requires a level of mastery. The guy realizes that he has done this many times in King of Fists, and a surprised BJ sees the guy performing a move from King of the Fist. Taeyang concentrates to activate skills and conducts Transcendental Excellence. Immediately after this, Whirlpool, as it is possible to produce in Dantalian. Even Yan himself is surprised that he succeeded the first time. BJ is surprised at how easily the boy activated the skills. The audience screams in delight as Carol Fist's moves work in Dantalian. The Overseer is defeated. Meanwhile, Rudy opens the lock. There are 3 seconds left and the trio rushes to the exit. At the last second, they jump out of the prison. The system reports that the labyrinth prison has been passed. 13 gold coins are given. And also, 3 new achievements were obtained. Clearing the labyrinth prison. Ren Zhonglu Bu. Eye of Choice. Spectators are impressed by 6 achievements for 2 floors. Icardi thanks Taeyang for saving him and his sister. The girl promises to sacrifice her life for the guy and gives her word as the leader of the Knightly Order. BJ reminds you that you can climb the tower together with NPCs that you encounter along the way. Then little Rudy comes up to the guy. The girl also thanks Taeyang, who sees his little sister before his eyes, and he understands that the little girl should not follow him up the maze. And the sisters go their separate ways. The audience can't believe that the guy is so confident in his abilities that he simply refused the NPC. Taeyang enters the next golden door. The system states that it is necessary to satisfy the whims of the bored Queen Acanella, who is fed up with everything. The girl asks why the player doesn't come closer. BJ says that she once also passed the level with Acanella. Here it is necessary to satisfy the queen's whims. But the problem is that almost all attempts at entertainment end in a battle royale. Taeyang doesn't intend to waste time and plans to fight the queen right away. BJ reminds him that this is the third floor, and the queen is too strong. And besides, the character is not made for fighting. Jan agrees, because he clearly feels the vibes of fear from the girl with the bright dog. The guy understands that the third floor is not like the previous ones. Something is hidden here. The girl insists that the newcomer come closer, and the dog barks in agreement. Taeyang comes up with a bold idea that he decides to try out, after first making sure that BJ trusts him. Jan approaches the royal bed, where a girl lies with a dog. Then he resolutely lowers himself onto the bed, rushing his whole body towards the girl. She licks her lips and notices that he is quite a cute boy. Jan practically embraces the girl, who wraps her arms around his neck in anticipation of a kiss. The audience trembles, wondering if they are about to see an adult scene. A debate is raging over whether it is okay to show erotic scenes on stream. The kiss will practically happen in the next moment. But instead of eroticism, astonished viewers see a scene of hostage-taking. The guy is convinced that he is right. Queen Acanella is not a girl at all. Inu Dog, who in his true form is not so cute at all. BJ finds out that John realized this because the girl looked much weaker than the dog. And when he came closer to the bed, he noticed a tag on the succubus with the nickname Boxen. Viewers noticed signs of jealousy in BJ, for which they immediately received a brazenly laughing avatar from the streamer. Taeyang threatens to twist the succubus's head off if Acanella tries to attack. The dog waves its huge fists in helplessness, and it hits the guy's cheekbone. The opponents look into each other's eyes, like boxers before a match. Boxen begins to cry and call out to his owner. Acanella is unable to bear her pet's tears. The queen instantly returns to her previous, seemingly harmless appearance. Acanella asks in a breaking voice not to touch Boxen. Ian wonders if he lets the succubus go. Will Acanella be satisfied? Queen Acanella, with tears on her face, declares that if Boxen stays alive, she will be satisfied. The system confirms the completion of the level. Jan understands that he might not have won the battle with the queen, and the sobbing Acanella hugs her pet, who is sobbing from the fear she experienced. The guy is met by the Demon King, who laughs until he cries, and cannot calm down from the way Ian satisfied Acanella. Received 11 gold coins and the achievements Wise Decision and Acanella's Blackmailer. The Demon King of the 71st rank confirms that the player has passed the 3 floors he prepared. Let him look forward to the next trials. Ian sees only one door in front of him. The Demon King explains that after each stage, before the next Demon King's arena, there is a door to the rest area. There you will meet other players and NPCs who helped you during the game. BJ doesn't think Bella will be there, because she entered the game much earlier than Ian. The guy hurries to the door, but first, his evaluation sheet appears in front of him, which is compiled by the Demon King responsible for the floors passed. In the Dantalian evaluation sheet, the Demon Kings rate the interestingness of the player's behavior on levels from A to E. For A, they give 50 gold coins. Red-Eyed wrote a laudatory ode, noting that he could not contain his emotions and was looking forward to completing further levels. Ian has been awarded the S-rank Dantalian Player Achievement and a reward of 100 gold. BJ and the entire audience are stunned at the sight of the S-rank being awarded. In the third-floor lounge area, everyone is shocked to hear someone pulling out cards, and so everyone flocks to the store. Taeyang pours 100 coins onto the counter and asks for a card. The saleswoman behind the counter was simply shocked. She had never seen so many coins at once. All the visitors in the establishment cannot believe their eyes. The hostess comes down and intends to serve this guest herself. Summer, the NPC from the store, is happy to receive 100 gold. The system reports that Lita recognizes the abilities of player Yang Taiyang. Lita takes one of the bottles from the counter, and the drinks counter turns into a display case with maps. Lita shuffles the cards like a seasoned casino croupier. Then he lays out 3 cards in front of the guy and asks him to turn them over. Visitors to the establishment watch the unprecedented spectacle with bated breath. Jan clarifies that it will not be possible to watch the cards without spectators. The guy turns over the offered cards. Visitors are buzzing that all 3 cards are rare, which is simply unheard of, since the chance of rare items dropping is only 5%. Spectators are puzzled as to where rare cards even appeared on the 3rd floor. Dantalian features normal, uncommon, rare, unique, and legendary cards. The audience is heatedly discussing what is better to choose. Perot stands out against the general background, who believes that it is necessary to take the monk's belt and achieve divine synergy. By collecting a certain amount of synergy, you can get a buff. The buff effect will be greater the more synergy of the same type is collected. Yang chooses the monk's belt, a rare piece of equipment that adds +1 to divinity, dexterity, and might. The guy immediately uses the card. A bright blue glow appears and spreads around, and a new belt appears on Yana. Divinity Synergy 2 points, which gives 20% additional damage to all attacks. The eyes of the establishment's visitors light up with envy. BJ is glad that fighting is not allowed in the recreation area. It is clear that problems will start tomorrow. With this thought, John enters the hotel. BJ advises to turn off the broadcast and get some sleep. The guy falls onto the bed, realizing that even in the game it is necessary to sleep. In his sleep, he sees a nightmare about an old fire that took the lives of his parents. When Dad threw himself into the fire because there were still people left in the building. Then Dad said that he believed in his son and asked him to take care of his little sister. Jan never saw his dad again. The guy jumps up on the bed, covered in sweat. The system reports that manager BJ Zena has entered the chat. Jan leaves the hotel, which is also reported by the system. The guy doesn't even have time to go down to the hall before people rush to him from all sides. Everyone praises their skills and teams. BJ explains that in the recreation area, you can hire NPCs to complete levels together. Jan tells them to leave. He doesn't need anything. Since he can't trust anyone here, it's better for him to go alone. The guy opens the door, and the NPCs rush after him in a crowd. The system reports that the entrance to the 4th floor has been completed. Taiyang finds himself in the forest. There are quite a few people present here besides him. Andromalia, the demon king of the 4th, 5th, and 6th floors, appears. Looking languidly at the players, she says that 3 beads need to be found in the forest. Andromalia concludes that this time only scum has gathered, but she thinks that this might even be more interesting. In the forest, players must find at least 3 beads. Everyone is puzzled as to what these beads are and where to look for them. One of the participants points a finger at the demoness, demanding an explanation. She leads with a yellow eye. A huge snake appears and simply swallows the overly demanding participant. Everyone else watches the eating scene in shock. Andromalia sits cross-legged on the snake carcass and asks if there are any more dissatisfied people. Everyone is silent. Then she advises to hurry up before she gets tired of looking at people frozen like pillars. 3 doors appear. The queen reminds that to get to the next floor, you need to bring her at least 3 beads. Jan is also confused about what to look for without any instructions, but BJ asks to trust her. NPCs know nothing about the game and just wander around, searching everything around. While Taiyang has information from other players who share their experiences and knowledge about the levels of the game, BJ directs him where to run. On this floor, you need to find beads and deliver them to Andromalia, who is waiting in the clearing. The beads could be buried in the ground, hanging from trees, or carried by forest-dwelling creatures. The stronger the beast, or the taller the tree, the greater the chances. But the number of beads is limited, so you should hurry. Because NPCs may not try to find them, but simply kill those who have already obtained the beads. It's worth completing the level before the massacre begins. BJ takes the boy to the biggest tree in the forest. The audience believes that he is a suicide bomber who went into the forest alone. One of the viewers, who made a large donation, explains, "The snake cave of Aksharan is near the roots at a depth of 20 meters and asks to definitely kill the reptile." BJ sets out to find traces of the snake, believing that they are near the entrance to the cave. But Jan has another idea. Since the ground here is soft, he is sure it will work. The guy lifts his leg. Before his friend can ask about his intentions, Taeyang stamps his foot on the ground, and then immediately falls down. BJ is shocked. The guy has such skills. Ian does not consider these skills, but simply decided to try what he had in the last game. And it worked. This was called the level change system. If the pierced earth went down, the levels would change automatically. Aksharona Cave is very spacious, and only one boss monster, the snake Aksharan, lives here, which significantly increases the chances of finding a bead, especially since the snake sleeps during the day. Suddenly, strange visitors appear nearby, whose eyes glowed with an evil fire the night before. The leader notices how quickly John found the cave, but the people look strange upon closer inspection, more like zombies than normal. BJ is sure that this is the work of mind control magic. The leader objects, saying that it is natural for people to obey a strong leader, especially if he has in his hand the artifact Tentacle Sword, which controls people with its magical tentacles. Xena is indignant. Where could the weapon, the artifact on the 4th floor, have come from without fraud? The leader, threatening with his sword, demands that Yan hand over his rare card. Taeyang's answer is not beyond the predictable. Dantalian artifacts are items without synergy, but with special functions. High-level artifacts can be more important than cards, and a high-level card can have synergy and be an artifact at the same time. The leader orders the uncooperative player to be killed, and the zombies rush towards Ian in a crowd. The guy dodges the attacks, realizing that he can defeat them, because he has 3 achievements for each floor. That is, he is ahead of the attackers in growth. Their only advantage is numbers. The leader, watching the fight from the sidelines, understands that he is not dealing with a lucky guy, but a strong player. BJ believes that the leader is feeding the sword with his consciousness, and the weapon is too strong, so Taeyang will be inferior in strength to the leader. He raises the sword above his head, offering to take it. Xena shouts to be careful. If the tentacle touches the guy, it will be able to control him, because Ian doesn't have a magic shield yet. Jan dodges like a hare, and the leader chuckles. Why is the guy running away? Does he really not want to take possession of his sword? He offers to test its strength, and the tentacle reaches out to the big hammer man, who immediately falls into a zombified rage. The hammer hits the ground with terrible force. BJ advises to get out of this cave as quickly as possible. Taeyang flies up into the air, something the zombies can't do. The leader has almost arrived, but is holding on with only one hand and asks the guy to help. Jan freezes in place at first, but he still extends his hand. The leader, not believing in such luck, happily grabs the guy by the hand, but at that moment notices that his sword begins to slide down. Dependence on powerful magical weapons overrides common sense and self-preservation. The leader throws down his outstretched hand and dives down for the sword, where the owner of the cave is waiting for him. Jan watches as Aksharan snaps his giant mouth shut. Xena breathes out in relief, falling onto the keyboard. BJ asks if the guy is okay. Jan understands that this is just a game, but still feels unpleasant. But the guy has a purpose for being here. The serpent Aksharan kills all who challenge him and stores the corpses in a cave. That's where the beads are. As soon as the guy finds the first one, the system informs that the boost effect is activated. Ian initially fought 7 NPCs alone, and then single-handedly found 13 beads, each of which gives 1 achievement, to the delight of the audience. Taeyang remembers that the more beads he brings to Andromalia, the better, and the guy decides to go deeper into the snake's lair in the hope of finding something that can resist magical attacks. The ideal magical shield would be the abundantly found Aksharan scales, with the highest stats of entry-level shields. Taeyang picks up a scale and throws it over his shoulders. The system congratulates you on obtaining the Aksharan scale and successfully equipping the item Aksharan scale. The system confirms activation of magical protection. The tentacle sword inside the snake constantly demands more food. The sword requires stronger flesh. The artifact tells the reptile to kill Tae-yang. Sword Tentacle has complete control over the mighty Aksharan. The sun caresses the flaxen cover with its rays. Fluffy little animals enjoy the fine day in their own way, but they scatter in different directions when they hear Tae-yang's approaching footsteps. The guy would like to test whether he has become stronger due to the effect of the beads. 3 guys and a girl are wandering in search of a large cave, where there should be a lot of beads. Ian watches the group as they just reach the location when they are already returning. Suddenly, a giant bird shadow covers the people from above. The next moment, the girl is trapped in a huge paw. The bird screams at the remaining people. They understand that before them is a sharp-beaked monster, which suppresses its opponents with force, on whose wings are feathers as sharp as razors. BJ explains that the sharp-beaked creatures attack noisy prey first and like to hunt strong magical creatures whose corpses contain a lot of magical energy. The girl trembles in the bird's claws and calls out to her comrades for help. The sharp-beaked hawk spreads its wings. Feathers, like daggers, pierce the initially frozen people. One of the guys is lying down. The remaining 2 rush to save themselves, ignoring the girl's screams. The audience mostly condemns the escapees. Jan warms up his hands and says that it is not right to simply abandon a comrade in trouble. Then it takes a low start, and it soars upward under the astonished gaze of the boy who is trying to escape. The sharp-beaked bird is in shock because the bird certainly did not expect an attack from the air from people. But the enemy falls from the sky like a hawk. While still in flight, the guy raises his fist to strike, and he beats the sharp-beaked one. The blow comes out excellent. The stunned bird unclenches its claws and releases the girl. Then he intensively showers Jan with his sharp feathers. But the guy withstands a massive attack from the feathered enemy, and under a hail of feathers, he persistently moves forward. Tae-yang is sure that a loud, screeching bird must have a weak spot, while BJ does not share his cheerful confidence at all. The guy strikes downwards from the torso. The sharp beak clearly doesn't like the attack. Jan threatens to repeat. It's as if the bird is being electrocuted. Sharp beak flies into the air, and with him, Jan, clinging to the feathers. The bird flies away screaming. Bide watches his friend fly away. The girl is upset that she didn't have time to thank her savior before he flew away. The guy with the sword asks why all the participants returned without a single bead. They explain to him that Aksharan is difficult to kill, and now he has become simply mad. So those who want to survive have returned. Meanwhile, Andromalia continues to sit on her snake, yawning. Many returned, hoping not to look for the beads, but to attack those who collected them, like the guy with the sword himself. But it is not clear whether anyone was able to find anything in this forest teeming with monsters. Whoever tries to bring beads to Andromalia, a bloody mess is guaranteed. At this time, the Demon Queen, who understands snake language, feels that her pet is hungry. Tae-yang didn't expect the sharp beak to drag him into its nest. On the other hand, he found 5 more beads here. Now the guy has collected 18. The spectators are delighted by the plundering of the snake's lair and the bird's nest. Also, Jan got hold of some useful things here. The items sharp beak feathers, sharp as daggers, which can be thrown at enemies. BJ feels sorry for the bald chick, who was left with almost no feathers after meeting the guy. Tae-yang laments that there are no eggs in the nest. Having jumped down, Jan becomes alert. There is an unusual silence around. Not even the rustling of bugs can be heard. The guy hides behind a boulder, clearly feeling something approaching. The Bengard tiger appears, the second most powerful forest monster, capable of catching its prey with lightning speed and tearing it to shreds. But what Tae-yang senses approaching is not a tiger at all, but a much more powerful energy. The next second, the tiger is already in the mouth of Aksharan, who has grown incredibly in size. The tiger is swallowed by the reptile with a crunch, like chips. The monster claims to sense the human spirit. Then he announces that he has found the guy and immediately attacks. Jan manages to dodge, but immediately sees that the snake has started moving differently. Taeyang performs a kick, but he is surprised to realize that his maximum attack hits the snake like peas against a wall. It's as if Jan is fighting not with a snake, but with a man with very long arms. Aksharan looked everywhere for the insignificant little man. Bijay is outraged that Aksharan's consciousness was not at a sufficient level for him to speak. And the snake hangs over like a rock and asks, "Has the little man really not understood anything?" Aksharan's voice strongly resembles a zombie leader who chose to die rather than part with his sword. The snake threatens to devour the enemy whole. Ian realizes that the artifact now possesses the monster's consciousness and uses the snake's body for human techniques. Aksharan prepares to spit poison. BJ yells at the guy to be careful. He finds himself at the epicenter of a poisonous stream, which burns through everything around, like acid. Xenia is already screaming, powerless to do anything. Aksharan is pleased that his acid will dissolve even human bones. The snake scoops up its prey. The monster proudly reports that while he was looking for the guy, he managed to eat 20 people, and with each swallow he became stronger. But he couldn't calm down, because he wanted to taste the guy's brain, and he is determined to eat every last drop of his brain. The boy carefully takes a souvenir from the sharp-billed chick out of his sleeve. Jan notes that the snake turns out to be talkative. Taeyang cuts off the part of the snake's tongue that is reaching towards him. The stump writhes and the monster hisses in pain. Taeyang frees himself from the weakened snake coils. The guy jumps on the monster's face, saying that he's wearing protection made of Aksharan's scales, which his own poison can't penetrate. He just pretended to be wounded. Because when faced with an enemy who attacks from a distance, the first thing you need to do is close the distance. For Jan, this is a long-established foundation. The snake's eye is pierced by a sharp feather. Aksharan screams in pain. The guy tries out the kick he used to break through the entrance to the monster's lair on it. First, it carries out amplification. Then a move he hadn't tried on monsters yet in this game. Earth Crash. Taeyang's technique works perfectly. The snake carcass is simply torn to shreds. From Aksharan, the howling, tentacle sword falls at Jan's feet. The guy steps on it with his foot, and the sword squeals that it is not too late and he can grant power. But Jan mercilessly tramples the terrible artifact. Taeyang is sorry. Aksharan is clearly not edible. He also advises Ksenia to eat. Otherwise, it's not clear whether it's her chair that's creaking or her stomach that's rumbling. In Dantalian, players are hungry and must eat. Stroking her snake, Andromalia is incredulous at the feeling she has of the player defeating Aksharan alone. Hearing the noise, the crowd of bead seekers becomes alert. They come to the conclusion that someone is fighting Aksharan. Some of the candidates rush towards the noise, ready to take risks even for the sake of one bead. Taeyang appears from the forest thicket. The guy with the sword guesses that this is the player who collected the beads. But he, like everyone else in the clearing, doesn't care who Jan killed. They only want to take the beads by killing the one who managed to get them. 4 men approach him with weapons at the ready. Jan clarifies that they intend to take the beads. The attackers see with their own eyes that the goal is close. Taeyang offers those who wish to catch something they need so much. The first one who wants to is knocked out by the bead itself. The second one couldn't hold it in his hands either. The remaining ones decide to attack all together. Taeyang throws the attackers around like an adult throws children. They have no chance of success at all. After all, NPCs usually have 4 achievements for 4 floors. The challengers see that the player himself is as strong as a monster. One of them activates Ice Storm. Before visiting the snake cave, such a magical attack could cause damage. Aksharan's scale shield simply melts. As a result of a powerful magical attack, Taeyang is doused with water, and the challengers run away from the player who is immune to magical attacks. Jan gives them a boost by aiming the feathers of a sharp-billed chick. Soon, there are no more people left who want to take possession of the beads he has collected. Taeyang holds the bead in his hand and reminds him that he was the one who offered to take it. And the guy with the sword sees that all the attackers are laid down to rest in exactly 30 seconds. So he and his friend make the wise decision to try their luck another time, because today is clearly not their day. And Taeyang heads straight towards the Demon Queen without any obstacles. She says that the guy had to work hard with Aksharan, and Jan understands that Andromalia knew everything about the snake. She tells you to put the beads into the mouth of her snake. The boy feeds the reptile as ordered. Andromalia is amazed at how many beads this player has collected. A full set of 18 pieces. The fourth floor task has been completed. The achievements: collecting 3 types of beads, full collection of beads, hunting a monster, hunting a king cobra have been obtained. The audience is simply stunned. Jan manages to earn 15 achievements in just 4 floors. And for being able to entertain the bored queen, Andromalia gives the guy a card from herself as a reward. Rare rank card Resurrection Power that adds plus 11 lifesteal and plus 2 stamina with the ability to resurrect the monster Aksharan for 3 seconds. Jan's stamina immediately increases. The Demon King may, if he wishes, reward a player who has performed excellently. The city appears on the new floor. An NPC player in a red cloak with a sorcerer's staff runs along the night streets in search of Block 14-3, where the emergency exit should be located. Suddenly, the stone pavement behind him cracks. A hand appears from there and grabs the player by the leg. A strange, completely bald, big guy jumps out from under the ground, holding the little wizard upside down like a freshly caught rabbit. The big guy smiles and asks where his friend is running off to. He, dangling upside down, screams for the bald idiot to let him go. The big guy is indignant. Why offend his bald head? He doesn't care what they say about him, but he won't let anyone hurt his bald head. The big guy swings his arm to strike, but suddenly he grabs it from his foot himself. Moreover, the imprint of the soul on his beloved bald head is clearly visible. The blow throws the big guy to the side. The system announces that a new player has entered the level Killer Alley. The goal of the level is to kill 3 people with blue marks and find the exit. It goes on to say that there are 36 players remaining in Killer Alley. The suspicious characters are debating whether to kill Jan or rob him first. But they agree that, in essence, there is no difference for them, because they kill everyone they meet on their way. The girl notices that what if the new player turns out to be stronger? The tiger is sure that the girl is joking. The bald big guy explains that the mark above your head is needed to understand whether the player in front of you is an attacker or a defender. And Taeyang needs to kill 3 people with a blue mark above their heads. But since there are no marks at all above the bald man's head, there is no point in catching him. Jan wonders where there are most players here, because he doesn't have time to search. Baldy is in a panic that Jan immediately rushes into battle as soon as he enters the level. But he explains that it is now difficult to find people on the streets because everyone is hiding from the hunting beastmen. At first, there were 4 of them. But no one has seen the half-beast with white fur for a long time. He probably went to the next level. And the 3 of them kill everyone for fun. The beastmen are a powerful race with human intelligence and beast strength, but very few in number even in Eden. They are easily distinguishable by appearance, and the culture of the race is in decline, so they are easily captured and discriminated against. In Eden, the culture is at the level of the Middle Ages with a slave system. There, slave traders hunt beastmen. Therefore, the half-beasts had to learn martial arts to fight back against the slavers. It is believed that it is better to run away from free beastmen. Taeyang understands that killing the bald man does not promise him any benefit, and lets the big guy go. But first he tells you to turn out your pockets. He burrows into the ground again. And in Jan's hands, there appears to be a set of cosmetic products against baldness. He also tells the player in the red cloak to get lost if he has finished hunting and is looking for a way out. BJ notes that this NPC is very similar to the character Bella played in Dantalion. The player thanks Taeyang for saving him. He places something in Jan's palm as a token of gratitude and asks him to beware of the beastmen. Then the player in the red cloak runs away. BJ also advises them to hurry up. Taeyang examines the bottle with a red cross he received from the minor sorcerer. A player in a red cloak runs through the streets as fast as he can. He already sees the desired exit before him. But then a familiar head of a bald big guy appears from around the corner. The player places the staff in front of him and asks to leave him alone. Suddenly the head, separated from the body, appears completely. The trio of beastmen praise how well the players hid, but still got caught by them. The beast girl is glad that the bald man has finally shut up. Otherwise, he managed to say a lot of rude things. That's why she killed the bald man. The beast boy asks when and where the little man saw the new player. The sorcerer understands that he cannot tell anything, because even if he tells everything, he will still be killed. Tiger states that the scent of a new player, which he finds on the corpse of the baby in the red cloak, is enough for him. Beastmen hover over the frightened NPC. The tiger announces the beginning of the hunt. The beast girl from the gang of 3 beastmen promises not to eat the interlocutor if she is given a bun. NPC in a red hood killed for fun. A detailed close-up image is displayed on a large cinema screen. Andromalia, in the audience seat, notes that the most interesting thing to watch is the Tiger Man, mute. Her colleague, the Demon Queen Velial, who is also watching the game, agrees that the beastmen are unrivaled on the lower floors, but things get difficult for them higher up. As a rule, they are not able to think about forming an alliance with players of other races. And at difficult levels, the trio of beastmen will definitely not succeed. Dantalion, who is enjoying popcorn in the back row, for advice. Dantalion is sure that thanks to the beastmen, they have already had a good time. The king wonders who the queens will bet on. Each demon chooses a champion, who are then pitted against each other. The winner receives the prize for the bet, a royal battle. Velial wonders what the rules will be, the number of achievements, or completing the quest. Dantalion proposes to pit players against each other to see who is stronger. And he wants Andromalia, since it is her floor, to make the prize a skill card. Andromalia agrees. Velial bets on the Tiger Man mute, whom he considers to be the strongest player on the 5th floor. Andromalia bets on the Wolfman Valkar, believing that the one with the stronger will to win will win. Red-eyed Dantalion states that both queens bet on the Beastman. Andromalia wonders who the king will bet on, since only Erin, the Fox Maiden, is left. Donatlion places his bet on player Ian Taeyang. The queens are shocked, and the Demon King reminds them not to turn away from the screen while watching. Velial yells that not a single player from Earth has risen above the 45th floor, and Taeyang is nothing special and managed to refuse the help of NPCs. Andromalia thinks that Ian did well on the 4th floor, but he is no match for the fighting skills of the Beastmen. Dantalion, on the other hand, is confident in this guy. Having placed their bets, the Demon Kings continue to watch the game live. Jan looks through all the boxes in a row, but all in vain. He searched the entire warehouse without finding anything. Viewers note that the guy rarely played RPGs. BJ insists on continuing the search for the key, which is needed to climb up the clock tower. Ian understands that he shouldn't give up if he wants to get the tower artifact. The thought creeps into his head that someone might have already found the key. Here they notice a locked chest of drawers. And in factories they don't just lock chests of drawers. Upon closer inspection, the chest of drawers also trembles and sweats. Taeyang activates Mighty Hand, which the dresser manages to escape with difficulty. The wild iron chest of drawers makes plaintive sounds. A team of beastmen approaches the factory building. Having knocked the door off its hinges, they realize that the guy has already been here. Valkar doesn't understand. Is the player really trying to find inventory in the factory warehouse? Aren finds it strange that a player who has just entered the level is looking exclusively at factories. They burned all the cards of this level except their own. There are only 3 factories left in this sector, and the Beastmen decide to split up to make sure they don't lose the player. Taeyang finally discovers the key to the clock tower. In the area of discovery, the wild chest of drawers is mercilessly defeated. The system states that the defenders and attackers switch places. Above Taeyang is an icon that is both blue and red. Valkar appears in the doorway, with a 2-colored icon above him. Taeyang understands that only one of the opponents will emerge from the fight alive. Valkar does not hide his joy, believing that luck is on his side today. Opponents with icons of two colors at once look at each other. It becomes clear to BJ that they are simply being pitted against each other. Taeyang heard that the Beastmen gang could safely be called the veterans of the 5th floor. So the guy wants to know if the Wolfman has met the player Bella? Valkar licks his lips and declares that he has killed so many people that he can't even remember. And he asks if the guy wants to say anything else before he dies? Valkar attacks, but John manages to throw a can of canned tomatoes, which is cut by the enemy's weapon. The Wolfman aimed at the boy's heart, but with a smile he notes the enemy's good speed by human standards. Yang feels the speed and sharpness of the Beastman's attack, whose sword acts like a wolf's fang. Taeyang decides to break this fang first. Valkar looks at his sword in bewilderment, which his opponent broke with his bare hands. As a weapon, Jan decides to use chains, of which there is an abundance lying around in the factory warehouse. Valkar states that the Beastmen use weapons only as decoration. Taeyang defends himself with a chain, but the Wolfman grazed his side with his claws, and he screams that he will tear him to pieces. But a factory chain is already wound around his hand. Taeyang waited for Valkar to approach him. The guy performs a storm strike. In addition, the Wolfman already has both hands wrapped in chain. Jan is perplexed, because his blow was very powerful. Drops of pink flame appear around. Aaron joins in, declaring that, as always, nothing gets done for Valkar without her. The fox girl teases Valkar that he doesn't look so great. He justifies himself by saying that he only missed one blow. Taeyang is depressed. Even one animal irritated him. And now there are two of them, and the fox uses magic from a distance. Aaron is surprised that her magical fire did not kill the man, who is apparently stronger than ordinary people. The fox maiden first looks at the new moon, then activates the skill Fox Magic. It looks like a fox's tail is wrapped around the moon, and the full moon occurs. Aaron notices that the humans haven't seen Valkar's true form for a long time. The Wolfman sits as if spellbound, and can't take his eyes off the full moon. His body begins to transform. The steel chains just snap with a clang, and the giant wolf howls selflessly at the moon. Then, with a growl, he turns his gaze to the man. The fox orders the enemy to be torn to pieces. The wolf attacks Taeyang. The guy manages to jump aside from the huge clawed paw. But this is a one-time action. It is not clear whose magic. But Valkar became even faster and stronger. Moreover, the flame conjured by Aaron appears again nearby. The fox is extremely indignant that the man is distracted by thoughts. Therefore, he sends more flames so that he has no time to think. Jan understands that opponents are equally strong both at long range and in close combat. So, it is necessary to think about a plan. Taeyang that the whole thing might be due to the conjured full moon. The fox doesn't understand why the man suddenly froze in place. She sends Valkar to attack, demanding that he entertain her properly. Yang dodges all of the Fox Flame's attacks. Aaron doesn't understand how he's so lucky. But then she realizes that the person understands where her magical fire is directed. Taeyang feels that from now on, another power is available to him, which he already felt here. He clearly sees the magical currents emitted by the magical fire and the moon. Jan understands that this is mana, and after 15 achievements, he gained the ability to see the mana streams. The guy feels the same energy circulating in his body. And if this energy is concentrated in one place, the effect will exceed all expectations. Arin cannot calmly accept that a person has learned to control the flow of mana on the very first try. The fox shouts for Valkar not to give the enemy time to think. A man and a wolf rush towards each other. Taeyang concentrates mana into his fist, and when the wolf gets close enough, it performs Storm Strike. The full moon crash is quite spectacular. The wolf is pierced through and through, and the conjured moon is shattered into tiny pieces. Arin watches in horror as her magic is shattered into pieces in one blow. The wolf's body doesn't even have time to fall to the ground, and the man is already rushing towards the fox. Jan states that in any PvP game, you need to kill mages first. The fox directs the flame and warns him not to come near. But the guy can't be stopped with such techniques. He strikes the fox maiden, saying that real flame is much hotter than her witch fire. Mute, who was tearing apart another player, immediately freezes in place. He feels that both Aaron's and Valkyr's energy has disappeared at the same time. The tiger rushes like lightning to the place where he sensed the presence of his brothers. But he only finds their dead bodies. The Tiger Man goes into a furious rage. He vows to find the killer, crush his bones, and decorate the graves of his comrades with them. Taiyang drinks a potion given to him by the player in the red cloak. The system states that the potion heals some of the wounds. A guy climbs a clock tower with a spiral staircase inside. At the very top, there is a locked door. Taiyang unlocks it with the key he found with such difficulty. The guy finds himself in a room with a clock mechanism, in the heart of which glows the most valuable item of the 5th floor. This is the artifact of the clock tower, the greatest mechanism. It restores the physical condition to ideal and adds speed. The mechanism cools down for 12 hours. The cooling timer is visible to the owner. Taiyang holds out his hand, and the greatest machine hovers above his palm in all its engineered glory. As soon as the artifact is in the guy's possession, all players on the streets see the clock on the tower stop. The hand stops at 12 because the heart of the mechanism has been removed. But it is not the stopped clock towers that make the streets deadly dangerous. An enraged Tiger Man is running amok here. Taiyang comes out of the tower. The inner instinct immediately signals mortal danger. The cause of alarm is not long in coming, Mute, who has a bloody trail behind him. Jan clarifies that in front of him is a friend of a fox and a wolf. The tiger appears in front of the guy in a second, but he immediately jumps aside. Mute clarifies that it was Jan who killed Valkyr and Aaron, who were his friends, so there is no need to expect mercy. The tiger intends to tear the man into small pieces in order to console the souls of his comrades. The blows of the powerful paws are delivered with colossal force. Mute crushes the asphalt as if it were just sand. The strength and speed of the beast man are not comparable to the capabilities of the guy. The tiger rushes about like a living embodiment of fury. A huge paw scrapes its claws across Jan's chest. Mute is superior to Taiyang in every way. That's why the guy doesn't even try to block his attacks, but tries to dodge, then activates Storm Strike, which simply rots in the tiger's paw. Mute blocks it with ease and strikes back, breaking through a wall on the opposite side of the street with a guy. Yana gets it for the second time. BJ advises to run because Ian has already obtained the artifact. But Taiyang understands that he won't be able to escape because his opponent is not a man, but a real beast. There is no escape from such a predator. Mute sees that the man has covered his tracks, but he can easily find him by the smell of blood. And the tiger rushes in pursuit of his intended victim. Suddenly the guy attacks from above. Mute doesn't even try to step aside. He grabs Ian by the leg and declares that he is his prey, so stop running. The beastman throws the boy's body to the ground. The fall is quite noticeable. The tiger intends to finish off its prey with its paw. Mute is furious that such a weakling could kill 2 of his comrades at once. Xena freezes in horror in front of the monitor. Jan understands that the secret of the beastmen's power is that they control enormous beast power with human intelligence. But at the moment, Mute is blinded by an all-consuming bloody rage from within. This increases the power of his attacks many times over. But it will also be his undoing, because Taiyang is sure that the blinding rage of the beast will be enough to give him a chance for a minute. Mute looks at where the boy had just been lying, uncomprehending. The tiger can't figure out when the enemy managed to escape. His mind is clouded by the smell of blood, so the tiger missed when the enemy launched a counterattack. Jan notes that in his homeland there is a saying, "Even if you are caught by a tiger, you can save yourself by remaining cool." Taiyang activates acceleration. The gears of the greatest mechanism move faster. A 12-hour cooling will be required. The system reports that Ian is given a level 1 speed boost. His movements are accelerated 3 times for 1 minute. Mute realizes that the enemy has an artifact. Taiyang activates the skill and puts Soaring Dragon into his attack. The tiger's head simply breaks away from its body. But Yan has no intention of asking for forgiveness, because the gang of beastmen were real maniacs. Plus, Taeyang has a good reason to play the game to the very end. The guy tries to catch his breath over the corpse of a defeated enemy. Veliel screams, "How could a mere human defeat a tiger on the 5th floor?" Dantalian reminds that the terms of the bet must be met. Velial is despondent, because the man not only used the greatest machine, but also instantly adapted to the mana. Dantalian believes that this player from Earth needs support. It is a well-known fact that the inhabitants of Earth do not have the physical strength of the beastmen, and they do not have innate mana either. This allows us to help Yan with information. Because Dantalian hadn't had this much fun in their labyrinth for a long time, Taeyang has already shown that he has every chance to become an outstanding player who can change the course of the game as a whole. The guy activates the resurrection card, and the system reports that all his wounds have been healed, and his mana level has been restored. The Killer Alley quest is complete. Achievements: Complete Killer Alley, Herbivore, Stalker, Watch Thief, and Doping Addict obtained, plus 11 gold. BJ praises the guy for completing the 5th floor. Instead of answering, he falls flat on the floor and falls asleep before he even falls. The audience understands that the guy immediately fell asleep because he passed a huge amount of mana through himself, making a floor in a couple of hours that would take a couple of days. A satisfied Xena turns off the microphone and ends the stream. The queen of the completed floors approaches the sleeping guy. Andromalia wonders if Taeyang really likes sleeping on the ground. But she finds this man funny, so he puts the card right on his nose. The first thing Jan sees when he opens his eyes is a rare card, Search for Valuables, which gives +1 to magic, agility, and deadly poison. BJ buzzes where the card could have appeared from, but the guy discovered it by opening his eyes. On the next level, players are met by the Demon King's assistant, the cute Baston. First of all, he thanks us for reaching this level. This floor is called Swordsman's Castle, and the goal is simple: get out of the castle. You need to enter the castle, unlock the secret room, and go up the stairs to the exit, which is in the center of the castle. Jan believes that it is not that simple, and there must be something at the top. Baston confirms that a berserker swordsman lives on the top floor. The berserker is insane and immediately cuts down everything living that he sees in front of him. And the swordsman goes down while the players rise to the center. Baston thinks it might be worth trying to chat with the swordsman if you run into him. In addition, in the castle basement, there is a dungeon full of inventory, weapons, and special rewards, because it is easier to fight a swordsman with a sword in your hands. This floor is completely different from the previous ones. With beads and in the Alley of Killers, players fought each other. In the swordsman's castle, on the contrary, it is better to cooperate with each other. Looking at the assembled contingent, the guy understands that it is difficult to find a comrade among them. NPC Toby appears in armor and with a huge sword and declares that everyone should now go and open the secret room. Players believe that if you follow such a powerful knight, you can complete the level. Toby suggests they go. Taeyang goes in the other direction, but the knight puts his hand on his shoulder, asking if he heard his words. Jan asks not to pay attention to him, saying that he needs to find something. But the knight insists. Suddenly the guy just disappears from under his huge hand, and the next moment he finds himself halfway to the dungeon. The system reports that Ian is entering the dungeon. Toby is extremely annoyed, and the players left with him do not understand where the guy disappeared to. But Jan's behavior attracts the attention of a female player who is noticeably different from all the others. The dungeon is full of flying monsters, which Taeyang simply slaps with his hands, like ordinary midges or annoying moths. Jan is the first one to enter the dungeon, and it's just him and the monsters. There might also be some kind of artifact here. Taeyang finds the uncommon rank card Stormbringer. The guy places the find into his inventory for now. The viewer reminds that the guy has a rare Search for Values card discovered in his sleep. This is the first time BJ has seen such a one-time skill, and it also has a gold detection function. Although it is not clear what is meant by valuables, it could be an artifact or regular loot, or maybe a card too. But BJ had never heard of one-time skills being rare. Taeyang activates the Search for Values card and decides to try and find out where the card will lead him. A group of players finds a secret mechanism in the room. The knight Toby yells at him not to touch the mechanism. It's a trap. But his warning is ignored. The player grabs the lever, and he is left without an arm. The entire group that remained with Toby, for the most part, looks pretty battered. Even their weapons are broken. The players are outraged and want to go into the dungeon. Toby immediately gives him a slap in the face for such a suggestion. He advises to think, because the exit is already close, it would be better to just hurry. But the player continues to complain that too many of those who followed Toby are dead. They were not warned that it was so difficult to enter the room. He is supported by the surviving members of the group who do not want to die. Toby sees a rift brewing in the group. The NPC realizes the dungeon idea isn't a bad one. But Toby has no intention of turning away, because he believes that they will definitely die if they separate. He decides to force the players to continue their journey forward. At the same time, he demands that you trust him. The players look at their comrade clutched in a powerful hand. At this moment, Taeyang comes out to them, who sees that the others really did all go with the knight. The girl, whose attention Yan had attracted before entering, clarifies that this is the player who went into the dungeon himself. She is the NPC Lan, a wind mage who can use the wind not only as a weapon, but also as a source of information and predict the future from the whisper of the wind. Wind mages train their sensitivity to air currents for years. This allows Lan to see that Toby is surrounded by streams of bloody wind. She was glad that Taeyang left, but now he's back again, and Lan doesn't like it at all. Seeing the players' condition, Ian notes that their suffering makes him feel uneasy. Toby takes the remark as pure sabotage of their progress towards the exit and grabs his impressive sword. The NPC sees that the player does not want to cooperate, which means he does not need him, and the knight intends to kill the guy before he starts chatting and disturbing the group again. Taeyang states that Toby is the one preventing all players from surviving. The guy sees that there is a huge amount of mana inside the sword, so he decides to pour his energy into the weapon. Even a strong-looking sword of a knight cannot withstand such an overload and simply shatters into pieces. Toby looks at the stump left in his hand in bewilderment and tries to imagine how many accomplishments the guy has. The NPC reproaches Yan for hiding his power from everyone, to which the guy objects that no one asked him about it. Toby is still not satisfied that Taeyang, with such enormous power, did not want to help them. Yang explains that he intends to kill the one who descends from above. Jan's target is the Berserker swordsman. Players think the guy is crazy. No one has heard that a Berserker can be killed. Toby is convinced that words won't convince the crazy guy, so he pulls out a short dagger with the intention of continuing the fight. This is where Lan comes into play, aiming wind fangs at Taeyang. Lan waves her fan and stands in front of Toby. She is tired of listening to the knight's chatter. The girl claims that she helped Toby, not because she likes him. Jan wonders if the NPCs think that the two of them will have a better chance. The wind mage wields his fan effectively. Lan thinks she's lucky today. BJ is overjoyed and considers the SSS-level NPC to be an ideal support in battles, if you can persuade her to cooperate. Lan doesn't know what Taeyang is planning, but advises him to give up. He objects that there is nothing else here that he hasn't found yet. The dungeon is full of weapons and inventory. Jan is now ready to fight the level boss. Lan begins to believe that the guy is really crazy, and he declares that he has achieved his intended goal. Lan looks back and sees that Jan's trick worked. All the players rushed into the dungeon. She swings her fan at the sly fellow, but he manages to hide behind the door to the room. Toby calms Lan down because the guy entered the room alone, meaning he won't come out alive. But the wind mage is still angry. The room is teeming with monsters, which provides a great opportunity to warm up before the boss appears. Baston understands perfectly well what everyone is waiting for. At first, the players hear a creepy sound and are about to run into the dungeon. But not everyone makes it. 2 already won't make it in time. The system reports the appearance of a berserker swordsman, which looks more like a killer robot. 1 player was lucky enough to survive an encounter with a berserker, only having his arm cut off. A pair of players run towards a hidden room, believing it to be closer than the dungeon. 1 grabs the door handle, but the berserker swordsman is right there. Another player decided to hide and thinks that simply replenishing the inventory will not defeat the berserker. She regrets not going to the hidden room. The berserker's sword ends the player's life while thinking that Toby was right. The system reports that the berserker swordsman has killed 9 players. His power level increases to 3. While running away from the berserker, Toby even loses his forged boot. The NPC understands that it is necessary to strike the berserker and retreat, taking the people into the dungeon. But around the berserker, there hovers a thick blanket of scarlet energy, which is so dense that it does not allow the sword to break through and reach the target. However, half-barefoot Toby does not back down, and he doesn't intend to die just like that. It activates the skill Warrior's Last Stand, and he rushes at the berserker. But alas, he was not destined to measure swords. Toby is pierced through. The berserker swordsman lets out a victory cry over the body of his fallen opponent. At this moment, Lan activates Wind Charm. She approaches Toby's body, saying that he was a good boy. He was able to hold out longer than was possible. Lan cannot allow the number of victims to increase. The mage makes sure that the energy density around the berserker increases with each killed player. Taeyang apparently intended. Lan conducts Airwave. The girl tells the remaining people to run and save themselves in the dungeon. And she herself, with a fan at the ready, begins to protect their retreat. The magician watches his opponent with tension. The berserker doesn't make you wait long and rushes into attack. Waves of energy from the sword reach everyone she tried to cover. Lan herself hides behind the fan, as if behind a shield. Lan realizes with horror that the berserker creates a hurricane wind simply by swinging his sword. The system reports that the berserker swordsman has killed 12 players. His power level rises to 4. The girl sees that the berserker's sword is also increasing in size. The killer looks even more frightening. But for now, she is able to repel his attacks with her fan, although she understands perfectly well that she will not be able to hold out for long. Lan senses fear in the air, but she doesn't want to admit that this is her end approaching. Here, someone's sigh is heard from above. Lan doesn't understand where Taeyang came from. The girl asks him to help her, and he feigns surprise, like, is she really talking to him now? Meanwhile, the berserker monster is approaching inexorably, and he doesn't stop attacking. Lan asks for help because Yan himself wanted to kill the boss, so the guy knows a way to do it. In return, Lan promises to help the guy. Taeyang doesn't know if he can trust the girl who recently tried to kill him. She takes the solemn oath of the Wind Mages. Jan clarifies that the magician swears to help him and will not attack him. The guy offers to swear to dedicate his life to him until death. The audience is shocked by this turn to a slave contract. Lan is indignant at first. Taeyang turns away, saying that he is not forcing him, and the berserker, meanwhile, increases his onslaught. And Lan vows to dedicate the rest of his life to serving Taeyang. The enormous bulk of the berserker is already looming over the girl. The girl closes her eyes, but the attack directed at her is repelled. Taeyang accepts the oath given to him by the Wind Mage. The swordsman did not expect to encounter resistance. He increases his onslaught, intending to crush 2 enemies at once with 1 blow. But in the place where the players' corpses should be lying, the berserker sees only a broken floor. Taeyang managed to jump to the side and take Lan with him, who can't come to her senses. Because in the short moment while the berserker's blade was descending, Jan managed to jump onto the upper gallery. She asks the guy if he has a plan, but he just asks the girl to be quiet. The guy attacks the swordsman from above, adding a heavy wrought iron chandelier to his punch. But this doesn't bring much success. The berserker only screams more furiously. Taeyang is convinced that the swordsman's red aura works as a shield and simply does not allow blows to reach the target. After killing 3 players, the berserker's power level is doubled. The enemy has already reached power level 4. Suddenly, the swordsman's attention is drawn to players hiding behind a column. Berserker attacks from a distance, and he simply brings down a massive column on the unfortunate ones. The system reports that the berserker swordsman has killed 15 people. His power level rises to 5. A giant monster stands in front of Taeyang. The berserker's strength has increased 32 times compared to when he entered the game. The berserker is transformed in appearance, and demonic features are visible in him. Lan points out that the swordsman even dropped his armor, so it's unlikely that the overconfident Yang will be able to handle him. The girl thinks that she should help him. Ian finds out from Bijay that approximately 20 minutes have passed since the swordsman entered the game. The guy activates the greatest mechanism. Taeyang's powers increased 3-fold, while the monster towering over him increased 32-fold. The berserker rushes to attack. He growls contentedly, aiming his sword at the enemy. The greatest mechanism ticks smoothly. The tip of the sword is almost at the guy's face, but when you get another centimeter closer, the blade simply starts to crumble. The berserker swordsman is completely bewildered. The recovery effect, which restores physical condition to its best, can be applied not only to the player himself. As a result, the system reports that the berserker swordsman returns to the state he was in 20 minutes ago. The berserker's power level is once again 1. Now he doesn't pose the same threat as he did a minute ago. The enemy attacks, but he is already without armor and without the menacing scarlet aura. Taeyang thinks this is a great time to use the map he found in the castle. The guy activates Stormbringer. A tornado vortex forms near the berserker. The system informs that the body of player Yang Taeyang is inhabited by Arasil, a warrior of the wind spirit, for 60 seconds. A huge warrior towers over the guy, and BJ and Lan witness how the unusual skill card becomes a unique skill card. Taeyang enjoys new sensations. The berserker's enthusiasm melts before our eyes, but the swordsman still attacks. Both girls are shocked. Jan does not back down from the attack. Even the berserker himself is in shock. Taeyang delivers a kick to the opponent's legs. Moreover, the guy is clearly enjoying his new powers, which allow you to literally send a berserker flying. The audience is simply delighted. Taeyang uses Master Arasil's technique, which is known as 18 gusts of wind. Moreover, the 18th gust literally blows the berserker's head off his shoulders. The guy stands over the body of the defeated enemy. The system reports that the warrior of the wind spirit, Arasil, is leaving the body of Yan Taeyang. Lan looks at the confident and sinister guy with the bloody wind swirling around him. She tries to figure out who he really is. Yang waves his hand for Lan to come down to him. The fight is already over. The guy, looking pleased, picks up the blade that ended up in the swordsman's hands. This is a rare item, Vampire Katana, that gives +1 to dexterity, power, and vampirism, and an additional skill, Bloodlust, that increases blood energy. Moreover, it is not so much the rare card that is valuable, but the Bloodlust skill itself, because due to a glitch in the game, the pain control system does not work. And at the moment, Yana was also hurt, although not as seriously as in the battle with the tiger, but still the guy endures the pain purely by force of will. Lan runs up to support Taeyang. BJ finds out that the guy is not quite normal, and Lan does not understand who he is talking to. A friend invisible to the NPC advises to use the power of restoration. Ian uses the regeneration card, and the system reports that all wounds have been healed, much to the mage's surprise. The guy wonders what will happen if Lan breaks the oath he gave him. The Wind Mage will lose all skills acquired before taking the oath. BJ knows that for mages, this is the most important thing. Although there is no 100% guarantee that Lan will not betray, it seems that she can be trusted. Taeyang declares that the girl must obey him. She clings to her fan with all her might and asks not to come closer. Jan extends his hand and offers to exchange greetings. They meet, They formally introduce themselves to each other by name. Then they walk along the blood-soaked corridor to the exit from the floor. Behind the door is a red carpet that leads to the throne of Andromalia. The Demon Queen drinks tea that Baston pours. Andromalia notices that they have settled in very well. Ian doesn't understand how she can calmly sip tea. Taeyang asks why she sent Baston to him. Baston yells at him. How dare a guy talk to a queen like that? To which he flies already with a huge bump on his forehead. Andromalia is confident that if the guy continues to cope so brilliantly and remain a good boy, he will receive even more awards in the future. For completing the Swordsman's Castle, Lan receives 6 achievements, although previously she could not get more than 3. This only happened thanks to Taeyang, who was slightly wobbly. Andromalia is calming down. Ian has received 10 achievements and is now adjusting to the enlarged soul. Lan had never even heard of such a number of achievements at once. Ian also made a contract with an NPC on the floor and earned 24 gold, making his total 51 gold. Lan supports the guy, and his spectators rejoice, considering this moment legendary. AKK viewer praises the game and donates 1 million. Other viewers are shocked by the amount of the donation and are delighted that the star is watching the stream with them. Even Xena is shocked. KK is an old player in Dantalian, 4th in the game's ranking and very recognizable. The number of viewers increases instantly. The Demon Queen praises the player, gives Yan a brilliant stat, an S-rank Andromalia certificate, and an additional reward of 100 gold. The Queen says goodbye to the players, in front of whom the exit door from the floor appears. Finally, Andromalia notices that the Demon Queen is waiting for them and is eager to meet them. She herself greets guests in her establishment between the 6th and 7th floors and is in charge of the tower's floors from the 7th to the 9th. The Demon Queen Belial greets players with a glass in hand. Spatial magic in the Belial Inn prevents communication with other players, except your own group. The hostess greets Ian. The guy wonders if the queen knows him. Belial has heard about Taeyang and knows that he is good. Belial personally observed the passage of the 5th floor. The queen expresses hope that the guy will show himself to be no worse on her floors. Belial is sure that John is very tired. So he asks if they would like to start with a bath, a meal, or ordering a card. BJ explains that these are high-level items and artifacts. They look real, but they are probably fakes. Belial asks what Lan would like to order, but the girl does not have enough money to buy such an item. The queen assures them that everything is fine. They will receive the map as a reward for completing the 7th floor. She will just give the reward in advance. Lan's eyes widen and she asks to think. Belial asks not to rush. There is a whole night ahead to think. The queen asks if the players should be put in the same room. Lan blushes and refuses, which amuses the hostess. BJ promises to turn off the broadcast so the guy can get a good night's sleep. As Xena expected, the comments deviate from the content of the stream. The girl turns off the broadcast and stretches tiredly. Zainu even thinks about hiring a manager. At the moment, Taeyang has an average of 10 to 50,000 views. But after the fight with the Berserker, the views jumped to 100,000. This fight is becoming the most discussed topic all over the world, and it all resulted in a surge of comments with provocations or those not related to Irga at all. Xenia is thinking about making the broadcast private, but he doesn't dare limit viewing because John is playing for his life, and any hint could be decisive. Xena sees that messages are coming to her phone with contacts of families asking to save their relatives stuck in Dantalian. The girl is now in the same position as the senders of these messages, but they all have to wait a little. Xena closely monitors the condition of the capsules. When Jan was wounded during the battle, his groans could be heard from the capsule. After all, the guy's body, connected to the game, also suffers. Xena asks Taeyang to hold on. The next day, Lan looks like a living dead man with swollen eyes. The guy understands that she hasn't slept all night, and clarifies that she hasn't made a decision on which map to choose yet. It seems that the rumors that NPCs don't sleep are not far from the truth. Belial advises to choose wisely. It will not be possible to change the decision. Taeyang clarifies that there are no legendary cards among the proposed ones. Kings can't just hand out the most powerful cards in the game. BJ notes that according to official statistics, no player has ever had a legendary card. And Ian is the first to receive an S rank from the Demon Queen. Taeyang decides on his card choice pretty quickly. Lan also made a reluctant choice. Belial escorts the players to the door to the 7th floor. The Demon Queen wishes them luck. Yang finds out that Lan has chosen the Ice Wind Crystal, with +1 Magic, Intelligence, Freeze, and Dexterity, and the Ice Field Summon skill. This skill freezes the mana in the target area for 1 minute, making it impossible to use the mana. Yan clarifies that the skill will also work on Lan herself, but the girl is confident that with a reliable ally, this skill will become strategically effective. Dantalian is at the Belial establishment. The queen believes that the king wants to watch his favorite Taeyang play. The red-eyed man does not hide the fact that he watches the guy's game with interest. Belial offers to guess which of her cards Jan chose. Dantalian ponders the possible option. Here another visitor asks if someone really came before them. The king of demons and dragons of the 62nd rank Balrog is perplexed. What is there to see on the 7th floor? The 66th rank Demon Queen Chimeras greets Dantalian. Red-eyed also greets his colleagues. Particularly surprising is the presence of Balrog, who has been impossible to find lately. Balrog justifies himself by saying that he simply came for chimeras. Chimeras praises the taste of Belial's drink and adds that the player has become famous, so she came to watch who will soon be on her floor. Belial draws the guests' attention to the screen, where the 7th floor broadcast of Survive. Holy Apocalypse begins. Dantalian notes that the scene on the 7th floor reflects the invasion of fallen angels who found themselves in the demon world. Chimeras looks at the screen and understands why the other demon kings were delighted. The player has a keen sense of battle. He is truly impressive. Ian makes quick decisions and has a great grasp of multiplayer battles, which impresses Chimeras greatly. Balrog notes that Taeyang may have some skills, but a human simply isn't capable of taking down a video game boss the way a celestial being can. Dantalian wonders if they will be placing bets. Balrog is convinced that Dantalian really likes this player. He sees that the rumor that Ian is stealing from kings through gambling is not just a rumor. Red-eyed, with a wide smile, assures that their bet is just a little entertainment during the long climb through the labyrinth. Or is Balrog afraid of a bet? Balrog yells in a rage that he is annoyed that Dantalian is just playing with him, so he is against the bet. Belial finds Dantalian strange lately and doesn't understand why he supports Ian so much. Chimeras agrees with her, and Ian is from Earth. Balrog didn't know that this player was from Earth. Dantalian put a lot of effort into getting Earthlings admitted as players into the spatial labyrinth. He achieved this with difficulty, and in return received only an increase in the mountains of garbage. Balrog believes that by supporting Jan, Dantalian is trying to prove to everyone that his efforts were not in vain. He didn't like the fact that Dantalian brought people from Earth into the game at all. Balrog makes a bet that Dantalian will fight, but Balrog does not tolerate injustice. The rank 62nd Demon King is certain that Taeyang would not have reached his current level without Dantalian's handouts. But the red-eyed man counters that promoting a player with potential is a common and normal occurrence. Belial screams that Balrog will destroy all her supplies and demands that the guests calm down. Balrog's mood was spoiled. He leaves. Chimeras asks to forgive Balrog for his rudeness. Everyone knows that's his character. But she also intends to leave because she drank too much. Belial is dejected. She doesn't even remember the last time they got together like this. Dantalian notices that the enraged Balrog looks scary and apologizes for ruining the mood. Belial is sure he doesn't regret it at all. They watch the game together. Dantalian thinks Balrog should have seen this scene. Belial assures that Balrog will see this, because the recording is available for viewing by all demon kings. But Dantalion would like to see the expression on Balrog's face at that moment, and it would be really funny if they did make a bet. Belial is confident that Dantalion knows Taeyang's strengths as a player. At the moment, Yan was facing the boss of the Heavenly Faction. But that's not nearly as amazing as the fact that the guy was able to fully utilize his powers. Players from the ground are considered the weakest, as they cannot get used to the increase in strength as they rise up in the spatial labyrinth. An Earth player with 10 strength can only support 8, so with 20 strength, they can only produce a maximum of 13 of their potential. As achievements accumulate, card slots fill up, each expanding his abilities to the maximum. Taeyang uses them as if he was born with the skills. Belial notices how the boy's adaptability is improving, but does not understand how this is possible. Dantalion knows that the spatial labyrinth is merciless, but for the survivor, it constantly expands the boundaries of possible existence. Testing one's own limits is something Dantalion is all too familiar with. This is exactly what happens to players in the Labyrinth Tower. On the 39th floor in the conflict zone, a serious group battle is taking place. Goblins and orcs are a match made in heaven, each more ferocious than the other. The players are having a hard time holding back their onslaught. People can't understand why they can't log out, but it's clear that they'll have to deal with the monsters first. The tanker is holding on with its last strength, and as luck would have it, the healer is on cooldown. She asks to wait a couple of seconds. Here the system reports a forced connection interruption due to the death of a player. The group's only healer dies. At this moment, the monster boss bursts in front of which a holy shield suddenly appears. Bel Rim, a rank 50 sacred tanker, shouts for people not to give up. There is still a chance to survive. Players are not sure if they can survive without a healer. Bel Rim is feverishly trying to find a way out of this situation. This level is related to the 37th, so if you apply a certain technique, everything can work out. Rome commands everyone to stand behind him. The orcs, led by the boss, rush to attack. Bel raises the shield above his head, and he hits them on the ground with all his might. Everyone falls down, and the system says to return from the 39th floor to the 37th. The orcs have gathered around the hole, but they don't dare to pursue. Falling players are surprised that it is possible to break through a passage to the lower floors here, apparently because it is possible to go up and down from the 37th. Bel Rim asks the mages to cast spells that would soften their landing. At this moment, an envelope flies to Bel. This is a challenge to the Demon King's trial arena. The text states that the duel will take place under the name of the Demon Queen. Bel knows that the sender can send this item to any floor. I wonder who could have sent it. In front of Taeyang, which reports that the opponent on the 37th floor has accepted the guy's challenge. Lan is shocked that Yan chose a challenge to a duel instead of a rare card. But the guy insists that it was the most necessary item of all those offered. The girl has no idea what value a one-time challenge to a duel could have. Ian realizes that accepting the challenge confirms that the player he needs is alive, and he has found out his location. Taeyang goes through the tower to find this person, which is why he gave up the rare card. Lan wonders who Taeyang is so desperate to find. The girl believes that this could be her lover, but a ruthless guy who kills all enemies in his path does not fit the mold of romance. Then, out of nowhere, an elevator cabin plops down in front of them, from where the demon steward comes out and greets you on the elevator floor to the heavens. There are 5 levels on the floor. You can jump to the next one after clearing it. The steward asks which floor Jan wants to go to. The audience is buzzing that they barely made it to the 2nd floor. BJ says that there are strategies only for the 1st through 3rd floors and suggests going up to the 3rd. But Taeyang chooses the 5th floor. BJ and the audience are shocked. The elevator doors open onto a carpeted area. At the end of the hall, a winged figure sits on a throne. The system announces the task: defeat the leader of the skies, Olvir. The leader himself shouts that the survivors will be able to climb the tower. The steward proclaims the beginning of the battle. Man and the leader of the heavens clash fist to fist. Moreover, none of them intend to give in. and Lan is still lost in thoughts about his beloved, whom Yang is looking for. Jan's shout brings the girl back to reality, who reproaches the Wind Mage for the complete lack of support. Lan opens her fan and activates Fair Wind. Yang counts on her help and will break through. In the arena, opposite the guy, stands the NPC Tkach with an impressive spear. BJ explains that Tkach is a spear-wielding mage who controls the flames of the heavenly realm. For its colossal power, it is unofficially called NPS. The energy it accumulates is stronger than the magic barrier. Because the flame of the heavenly realm is a high-level magic, Arasil's card slightly reduces magical damage, but the guy still feels the heat of the heavenly flame. Ian can't take his eyes off the mesmerizing shimmer of the magical flame. He sees in it an old fire, sees his house on fire. Myself and Bella at the burning building. A father who rushes into a house through fire. He remembers how he rushed after him, but a child's hand held him back. The sister reminds him with tears that Dad said to wait for him here. He sees how he pulled his hand out of his sister's palms and told her to shut up, reminding her that everything that happened was her fault. Because Bella did something stupid, Jan told her that he didn't want noodles. But the girl decided that her brother would like it if she cooked noodles for his arrival. She left the pot on the stove and ran to meet him. Jan asked his sister to get out of the way. He jumped right up to the building and screamed, calling for his dad. Everything around was covered in acrid smoke, and the flame was too hot to allow one to see anything. The building had already begun to collapse by then. The little girl managed to jump up and cover her brother with her body, over which I also cried. But Jan came to his senses, and Bella cried and asked for forgiveness. When firefighters arrived, they found only 2 children. The news reported that the cause of the fire was arson and that an unknown assailant was being sought. Thus, the fire was attributed to the work of an intruder, and not to Bella's mistake. Due to her brother's fault, Bella received a burn that left a scar for life. And not so much on the outside, but on the inside. She was just a baby, but she rushed to protect him absolutely fearlessly. But Taeyang couldn't save either Bella, who was left with a permanent scar, or his father. But now he intends to save his sister. While he was lost in his memories, enchanted by the heavenly flames, his chest was pierced by the spear of the Weaver. The pain brought the boy back to reality. BJ and Lan are horrified. The Weaver is already rejoicing, but Jan does not consider the situation hopeless. Tikak sees the boy's determined look and understands that in front of him is another one of their victims. But nothing can be done about it. He himself is in the same position. The Weaver can't believe his eyes. Taeyang holds the spear, preventing it from being drawn. Yan shouts at Lan to send wind, but Lan objects, saying that it will only cause the flames to burn even more strongly. Taeyang yells at her to just do as he says. Lan complies, wondering if the guy really intended to burn alive. The Weaver feels the rising wind and is amazed at the boy's stupidity. The opponents find themselves in the eye of a hurricane. The Weaver wonders if the boy hopes to burn with him, which is extremely stupid, since he created this flame himself. Taeyang activates the greatest gear and asks if Weaver is sure that the flame still belongs to him. The flames are spreading at an incredible speed. If this continues, they will simply engulf the Weaver. The guy shouts that he is not finished yet. Jan activates the Arasil card. The Weaver is amazed to see a ghost in front of him. Jan explains to Arasil that there is a mixture of wind and flame here and asks for help in sorting out this problem. The guy's clothes start to burn along with his skin, but the thought that Tkach is not having an easy time of it helps him endure the pain. The smoldering Weaver is outraged that the arrogant little man decided to destroy the magician with his own flame, making an irreparable mistake. In the arena is a burnt Taeyang and a pile of ashes in front of him. The steward declares the guy the winner. The burnt winner can barely stand on his feet. Ian uses the healing card. Lan decides to accept as a given that the guy is ready to undergo any danger for the sake of his beloved. Taeyang doesn't understand at all what kind of beloved the girl is talking about, and she turns away, saying that it was stupid to swear to someone whose fate was already predetermined. She herself heard that the guy was climbing the labyrinth to save this man. A stunned Yan notices that he seemed to have told him that his younger sister was in the tower, and asks Lan to help him up because he can't feel his legs. Lan is simply speechless. She turns and walks towards the elevator herself. Where else is he yelling? Why is he sitting down and not moving? The steward explains that they both need to proceed to the exit, and Lan is torn apart from the inside by the realization that it was originally not about his beloved, but about his sister. She feels joy. And then she gets angry at herself for this joy. Jan clarifies that since he has completed the level, he can go up to the 5th floor. The steward doubts that anyone has ever completed all 5 levels at once. She believes that it is indeed not for nothing that the Demon Kings pay special attention to the guy. The elevator cabin is rushing, and Taeyang mentally promises that this time he will definitely save Bella. Xena sees that when Taeyang broke through 5 floors at once, the number of viewers on her stream immediately increased. Now, more than 500,000 people are following the guy's actions. And these are people from all over the world, not just from Korea. The news announced that professional player Yan Taeyang's younger sister was locked in Dantalion. After this, reporters gathered in front of the guy's house. Xena believes that such attention only complicates their situation. The angry dragon opened his toothy mouth to join the pile of brethren chopped up by the guy on the 12th floor, controlled by the Demon King Chimeras. Quest Endless Express in the snowy mountains. Because of the snow, nothing can be seen around. Lan tries to concentrate on the wind mana despite the cold in order to find the way. BJ says to go 50 meters south. Jan shows the way to the girl. She clarifies that a ghost told Yan about this. She was told that the guy has a spirit, Zen, who guides him. Lan once asked who the guy was constantly talking to. He explained that he was dealing with a ghost, a girl who was his guardian. Then BJ immediately pounced, saying where had they seen such beautiful ghosts? But Lan couldn't see it. Lan understands that this ghost is well versed in strategies and has useful information about the specifics of the floors. Thanks to the ghost, Yan received rewards that he might otherwise have missed out on. Lan also updated her equipment and was able to maximize the synergy effect. The girl combined it with her fan, Northern Wind Crystal. Lan thinks that Xena was good at solving mazes in life and wonders how she died. Meanwhile, BJ points out which way is south. Players enter the Endless Express train. The world of this express is a frozen wasteland due to the ice dragon Untaru. NPCs are gathering groups to fight the dragon, and the search is endlessly moving in search of those willing to go out to fight Untaru. The player must survive on the Dragon Slayer train. The objective of the mission: to get into the first cabin, the locomotive of the train. The train has drivers who drive it, mechanics who repair the train, and guards who protect the train from dragon attacks, plus workers for small errands and players who sneak onto the train as stowaways. Although the train crew calls the players sneaky little rats. Lan sneezes, apparently having managed to freeze outside. Yan throws a blanket over her. The girl thanks him. They both manage to freeze. Lan believes that the train is very hostile towards players. Jan thinks that this is because the floor before them was cleared incorrectly, and suggests breaking into the locomotive right away. BJ objects. There is a protective spell on the cabin. You can only enter with the key, which is with the guard. The easiest way to get in would be to join the guards, who recruit for showing valor in battle with dragons. But it is not known when the dragons will meet. Lan hears 2 people approaching. These are mechanics who are puzzled as to when the door managed to break, which Taeyang kicked out to get inside the train. The mechanics are angry that this is probably the work of the rats who got on the train, and they think that since there is little food, Guhel should throw them off the train. Guhel is the train's security chief, who only shows his abilities when encountering dragons of a certain level. Here the mechanics are called in for backup, because there is a dragon's nest right ahead. BJ is happy about this luck, because if there is a dragon's nest nearby, it means that a dragon battle will soon begin. Here the supply team returns, pretty battered. They go straight to the report. NPC Commander Crusoe demands a situation report. One of the squad members steps forward and announces that there is a third squad of 20 men, but Commander Crusoe interrupts him. Crusoe discovers that the squad leader and his deputy were killed in battle. He intends to hire new dragon slayers and orders all rats and scum to be brought here. The mechanic who was supposed to fix the door is sent with a bowl of meat to feed the cat. He stands in front of a cage that is being transported in a separate carriage. He takes out a piece of meat and brings it to the bars of the cage. A growl comes from there, followed by a statement that he could tolerate rudeness, but he was tired of it. The mechanic is shocked that the animal can talk, but he doesn't even have time to be particularly surprised. The clawed paw holds the key to the cage, from which emerges a beast man, sensing the presence of his race nearby. A line of all-terrain trucks travels to their destination along a mountain road. Lan is desperately freezing, and it gets colder as he climbs the mountains. Taeyang gallantly gives the girl his blanket. They took advantage of the moment when guards were being recruited to join the ranks of the guards. Although the recruits appear to be fit only for cannon fodder, Commander Crusoe explains the mission. Pick up a food container 3 kilometers from here. The container is in a dragon nest where the offspring have recently hatched, so the nest will have to be cleared out. Each person will be given 3 tablets that activate the flame mana, which will allow them to stay in the cold for about 5 hours. The commander orders 1 tablet to be taken immediately. The effect appears instantly. The mana spreads warmly throughout the body. Without waiting for people to arrive at the nest, the dragons attack. Some of the recruits, upon seeing the dragons, try to leave the scene of the upcoming battle without permission, but Crusoe stops them with orders to kill the flying lizards. Before the recruit could escape, the dragon's paw cuts off his head from his shoulders. A giant wyvern has torn the awning of a car and is intent on killing the passengers. Taeyang calls Lan to get down to business. A guy attacks a wyvern carried away by a truck from above. The fight starts much earlier, as if the dragons don't want to let people into the nest. The commander orders to focus on searching for containers. BJ believes that if this is the last nest, then it is worth showing yourself and smashing it to smithereens, and thereby attracting the attention of management. Yan informs Lan of his intention to put an end to the winged reptiles. Lan opens his fan. A wind mage does not primarily create wind, but controls it. Wyvern captured in wind trap. Wyvern approaching them. Ian feels that this floor is saturated with wind mana mixed with snow, and the guy decides to absorb it. And the idea works? Land is amazed by such an incredible level of mana control and the speed with which Yang absorbs magic from the wind. Wyvern gains divine revelation, and in addition, the star explosion strike of canonical form, which the creature will fully feel. The recruits are amazed at how the guy was able to kill the wyvern with 1 blow. The locomotive is closely monitoring the fighting taking place between the machines. The equipment detects a surge of energy at a distance of 200 kilometers. The size of the energy wave indicates that it is probably a dragon. A wyvern is detected. The leader, the Alpha of Class A, 50 kilometers away. The group, which is 70 kilometers away, is ordered to turn around. The door swings open with a bang. The person who entered had a completely iced cigarette in his teeth, right down to the filter. This is NPC Solomon Arkraptor bursting in, who looks at the images on the monitors. Then he clarifies with the operator that there are 10 times more dragons than the nest was last year, and 70% of the dragons are concentrated near the railway. The number of dragons grows greatly, and the creatures become stronger. Untara influences them. Untara's movements have not been recorded. The operator is sure that if Untara shows herself, the commander of the Guard Corps, Guhel, the sword of the Dragon Slayer, the incomparable guardian of the train, will immediately come out. Guhel was the only one who forced Untara to retreat. Solomon orders the lizards to be fried and turns to leave. The operators whisper that if Solomon saw this, he would be surprised. Hearing these whispers, Solomon asks how the new recruits are doing. The operator reports, 1 is excellent, 2 are first class, and 3 are not good. Solomon takes a drag on his iced cigarette and orders the recruits to be deployed in the operation. While the carriage is being loaded, Jan reflects that half of their unit died in the battle. The commander of the 1st Battalion of the Crusoe Defenders praises the fighters and announces that the survivors are joining the guards, the trained defenders' squad. He approaches Yan and Lan and demands a report on the situation. Taeyang reports that the current composition of the squad is 28 people. Crusoe then finds out that Lan is 22 years old. Crusoe assigns the boys to the Advanced Defense Battalion and orders them to go there to report to receive the assignment. The Advanced Defense Battalion is the train's elite unit, 1.5 times stronger than the rest of the guards. They fight off attacks on the lead locomotive. The battalion consists of 2 groups, male and female. The fighters pass by the mission objective, and Taeyang feels a slight sense of unease. One of the guards addresses the guy to find out that Yan is not in a relationship with Lan, who can't take her eyes off the guy. Colleagues admire that Lan has only been with Yan for a week, and he already gives her his clothes. They ask to reveal the secret of such a rapidly developing relationship. Lan believes that this is how it happened. She vowed to dedicate the rest of her life to the guy. The Forward Defense Battalion is formed for further orders. Yan finds out that Lan told her colleagues nothing but the truth about them. The commander clarifies that the soldiers are ready. He explains that their target is the White Wyvern. These creatures are larger and stronger than others, and possess magic because they are filled with the mana of the white dragon Untar. The train will now pass by a nest of white wyverns, which are always on guard and attack in groups. Objective: kill all the wyverns you encounter along the way. The one who excels will be honored with a meeting with the train driver. Here, magical runes appear under your feet. Ian discovers that it is a teleportation spell cast by Chief Engineer Solomon. Now the squad will move to the roof of the train. The next moment, the squad is already on the roof, and a bunch of white wyverns are swarming around. The commander orders to prepare for battle. The squad carries out the order. Taeyang and Lan decide to deal with the wyverns in one blow. The girl opens her fan and freezes in horror. She shouts to Jan that the wind suddenly stopped. Suddenly, the train is covered by a giant dragon's shadow. Taeyang feels a sense of oppression. The enemy is clearly stronger than the wyverns. This is the white dragon of Untara himself. The squad member's mana freezes. The commander orders an urgent call to the control room. Crusoe didn't know that Untara could freeze mana. Nothing had been heard about this dragon for 20 years. His movements are closely tracked. Apparently, Untara used mana freezing to distract the Secret Service and attack the train when the crew was experiencing a severe shortage of people. The soldiers watch the dragon's breathing as if hypnotized. They have nowhere to retreat because they are on the roof of the train. Untara opens her mouth, spewing cold flame. The carriage is cut in half like butter, and the tireless Untara prepares for the next salvo. Lan suggests retreating to avoid the dragon's breath. But Yan says that retreating is impossible. If the train is destroyed, everything will end. Taeyang and the girl are standing just above the engine compartment. The commander shouts for the deserters to return, but his words are ignored. The system reports that Arasil is entering the boy's body for 60 seconds. In a separate carriage sits a beast man, chained up. Solomon comes to him. He wonders how the prisoner was able to survive several hours in the cold without the mana of the flame. Therefore, he intends to study the body of the beast man to understand what kind of mana flows in it and how it works. In exchange, Solomon promises to take the prisoner to the engine compartment. The train crew calls the players rats, but Solomon is familiar with the term. The beastman notes that Solomon knows a lot about the players, but not about the beastman. With these words, the prisoner breaks his chains. The prisoner states that the beastmen will not sell their bodies. Solomon sees that the prisoner intends to fight, but advises against it. Taeyang understands that if the locomotive is destroyed now, the game will end, and he cannot allow that to happen. The guy simply has to stop Dragon's breath. Lan feels the mana being absorbed into Untara like a sponge, in colossal quantities. She warns Jan about this, but he only replies that they have no way back. Taeyang only activated the summoning skill, and his mana was almost at 0. BJ notices that this floor is full of wind magic. That's why Storm Lord Arasil gains power very quickly. so fast that Taeyang's body can't withstand such a strong load. Here the guy hears an unknown voice that says that the guy seems to be having a hard time right now and promises to help. The mana that was raging in Jan's body calms down. The commander orders everyone to take cover. Untara opens its mouth. At the same time, Taeyang performs Starburst Strike in its canonical form. The clash of two forces looks quite spectacular. The soldiers are shocked that the guy was able to stop the dragon, and Jan wonders whose voice he heard. He put all his mana into the blow, and now he can barely stand on his feet. The commander warns that the attacks have split into many separate waves, but the guy sees this himself. A new figure appears on the roof. The warrior praises Jan's efforts and intends to deal with the rest. He's doing quite well at it. After all, this is the commander of the Azure Dragon Sword Guard Corps NPC Guhul himself, who, together with Crusoe, arrives at the meeting immediately after the attack is repelled. However, not everyone has shown up yet. Guhel greets NPC Benjamin Arkraptor, the train's driver. Only Solomon's place is still empty. Crusoe believes that although Untara has now retreated from the onslaught of the combined attack, it is unknown when he will attack again. Therefore, at the meeting of the Supreme Council, the main issue on the agenda is the location of the white dragon Untara. The girl representing the Union is against continuing the hunt. So as not to provoke the dragon once again, the staff is already very worried. The door swings open with a bang, and a slightly rumpled chief engineer, Solomon, appears on the threshold. He realizes that he is late for the start of the meeting. Neither Benjamin nor Guchel have commented on his appearance. Solomon takes out another cigarette and declares that Untara must be dealt with. And to do this, assemble a punitive detachment. They object to him that it will take at least 2 days to restore the train. Solomon explains that this time the dragon froze its skills and approached unnoticed. Untara knows their modus operandi. Now the dragon will obviously go into hibernation, and he won't find better prey than a train in the wasteland. Untara views the train as a canned food delivery. And it's not enough for them to just know its location. They have to destroy this dragon. A tense silence hangs over the table. Benjamin believes that it is necessary to move immediately to destroy the monster. That is, it is necessary to form a punitive detachment at this moment. In his half-sleep, Jan feels like little Bella is trying to wake him up. The guy opens his eyes, and he sees in front of him not his sister, but a worried Lan. The girl is glad that he finally woke up. Lan reveals that Untara went into hiding after failing to release his breath. They go to Commander Crusoe, who informs them that the players are being summoned by the train's Supreme Council. The guys enter the room where it was recently decided to organize a raid on Untara. The audience is buzzing that no one has been invited there yet. It is considered an achievement to even catch a glimpse of Benjamin Arkraptor. Here, Solomon and the White Tiger enter, who grumbles that he accepted the offer, recognizing Solomon's power, but did not give consent to the research. The Beastman states that he sensed the presence of his race from Taeyang earlier. The guy doesn't understand what they're talking about. The viewer reminds us that the White Tiger Jose Beck was the partner of the Beastmen who killed everyone in Killer Alley. Jan believes the White Tiger sensed the fox, wolf, and tiger he had encountered before. Jose explains that Jan was lucky. Beastmen do not forgive those who offend their race, but those whom the boy killed disgraced their species. Jose would rather die than enjoy killing, but Lan doesn't think Jose is any different from the other three. Beck responds by calling her a rude woman. They are already ready to grapple with each other. But Jan calms the girl down so that she doesn't waste her energy in vain. Guhul appears and sees that everyone is already assembled. Taeyang clarifies that Guhel is offering them to join the raid on Untara and perform together as one team. Guchel adds that everyone on the train who has outstanding abilities will go on this raid. Crusoe is simply bursting with the importance of the upcoming mission, which will be led personally by Guchel, and on which the very survival of their train depends. Jan wonders if he might not want to join. Guhel promises to take them after the battle to the engine compartment, which is the goal of all players. But Taeyang can get there right now. The guy is ready to listen to more tempting offers of reward for motivation. Guhel had anticipated this development, so he takes out one of his twin swords. Seeing this, Crusoe falls into a semi-fainting state. After all, this is a B-rank lightsaber, created by combining different types of magic and technology during a time when the world was at peace. When mana is infused into this weapon, photons are activated on the surface of the sword, theoretically allowing it to disintegrate anything the sword touches into molecules, including the dragon's breath. Taeyang believes the sword is worth fighting a dragon for. Solomon clarifies that Guhel is confident in his decision to hand over the sword, since Untar threatens the very existence of humanity. Hunting him is more important than anything else. Taeyang wants to get the sword in advance, that is, right now. Everyone is shocked by the guy's unheard-of audacity. Guhel thinks for a moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he starts laughing. And having laughed, he throws the sword to the guy. And he specifies that now Jan will join the hunt, since he received the sword in advance. He adds that not everyone can handle such a sword, but in Jan's case, it is difficult to predict anything. BJ believes that a lightsaber can cut through absolutely everything, but it requires a colossal amount of mana. Guhel himself can barely hold out for more than a minute. This is an extremely rare item, but it is of little use to players. Jan clarifies that Jose does not need a sword, since the beastmen do not rely on pieces of iron. Crusoe reports that Untara has landed near the railroad tracks. He clarifies that the teleportation scroll does not need to be activated. Solomon intends to go straight ahead this time. Runes of the teleportation spell appear under each of the squad. Solomon tells us to hold on tight, and the next moment, they are all outside, and Untara is right there. Taeyang is surprised because they don't even have a plan. Lan asks the boy to be careful because the wind is unstable. The girl feels that the wind is swirling unpredictably, which tells her about the upcoming difficult battle. Untara opens his mouth. Guhel rushes to intercept with a lightsaber. A sword that can cut through anything meets the breath of a dragon. Guhel's weapons do not fail. Solomon casts runes. This is a call for lightning, which does not harm the dragon. Solomon wonders if the discharge was weak, but Benjamin assures his son that the discharge was normal. Benjamin also casts runes. The lightning summoned by the driver causes the dragon to roar in displeasure. Crusoe intends to destroy the White Wyverns, while Guhel and the machinist with his son deal with Untara. Jose argues with Lan, picking on each other's words. Crusoe tells them to switch to the Wyverns. Crusoe believes we need to start with the leader, the White Drake. Taeyang wants to take the leader. Jose objects that he is in charge here. The hunters exchange glances, and Drake is getting closer and closer. Untara is right in front of her three opponents. Solomon creates the runes again, which the huge dragon simply sweeps away with its tail. Benjamin tells his son to step aside, but Untara lashes out with her powerful tail. The impact splits the ground, and the engineer sits in the snow. Solomon sees that the dragon is too fast, and they are almost out of mana. Such a prospect does not promise a brilliant victory for the people. Guhel rushes into attack against an old enemy. He raises his lightsaber, and with all his might, he hits the dragon in the chest. The result of the blow is simply depressing. The dragon throws away another enemy with its tail. Guhel feels that old age is not a joy. The warrior is worried that even his attacks could not penetrate the dragon's scales. Benjamin is nearby and is surprised to hear the warrior complain about old age. Guchel notes that Benjamin himself is gradually losing his grip. The driver claims he is stronger than ever, but Guchel chuckles that with such decrepit legs, that is hardly true. Solomon calls on the elders to stop chatting and focus on the battle. Guchel reproaches that the engineer himself could not dodge the dragon's paw. Untara intends to intervene in the small talk. Solomon casts his runes. The smoke gun is unleashed on Untara. Guhel holds his sword out in front of him, realizing that his mana reserves are almost depleted, meaning the lightsaber will simply deactivate. He mentally asks his body to hold on a little longer and stands up with the intention of using all his remaining mana. Jose works his paws. Jan throws kicks. Drake falls dead. Bayek and Taiyang argue over who exactly killed the creature, because everyone is sure that it is his merit. Jose is confident that he is stronger and faster than a human. They are almost ready to start a duel to find out who is stronger. But the appearance of Lan, who has dealt with her share of wyverns, prevents the argument from escalating into a fight. Commander Crusoe shouts that he will deal with the rest of the wyverns himself. He sends the trio to help Guhel, seeing that the situation with Untara is not very promising. Jan thinks this is a wise move. Crusoe points out that the boys wouldn't listen to him anyway if he tried to get between them to stop them. Taiyang is glad that Crusoe understands this. Ab declares that he will go first and overtakes the white tiger. Untara shows no signs of fatigue as she fights off 3 opponents. But Guhel is noticeably exhausted. The dragon throws him away and roars victoriously. Guhel can hardly get up. Solomon can hardly catch his breath. Benjamin exhales tiredly. Lan sees that the situation is much worse than she expected. However, Taiyang disagrees with her. The boy sees the fight as his chance to deal the final blow to the dragon. Because the player who takes the life of a dragon gets the achievement Dragon Slayer. Jan summons the Storm Lord Arasil into his body for 60 seconds. Solomon sees a tornado column forming. The engineer realizes that help has arrived just in time. He lights another cigarette, and he thinks that while the guys distract the dragon's attention, his father will be able to recover. Benjamin reproaches Solomon for making his father play the role of an old man on a backup dance, and asks his son for a cigarette. Solomon was sure that his father had quit smoking. He believes that if his father continued to smoke, it would end in lung cancer. Benjamin takes a drag on his cigarette with visible pleasure. The driver looks at his old comrade, leaning helplessly against a boulder. He extends his hand to Guchel, saying that they have been together on the train for 50 years. Guchel wonders if the driver is suffering from deathly nostalgia. He notes that this is quite possible. Solomon doesn't understand what's happening. Meanwhile, Benjamin uses Summon Lightning, but he calls her upon his old comrade, of whom only a charred skeleton remains. Benjamin stands silently next to the remains of a once mighty warrior. Solomon simply cannot believe his eyes. He doesn't understand what his father is doing. The driver extends his hand to his son and invites him to return to the train. Solomon stares at Benjamin with wide eyes. He had seen something similar before. Many years ago, Untara blocked the tracks. Wyverns surrounded the train. In front of the locomotive stood only Benjamin with a wrench at the ready and a few people. Then, when asked what they should do, Benjamin, without letting go of the wrench, ordered them to defend the train. The driver stood in Untara's path with a wrench at the ready, even with eyes closed in fear. At that moment, a figure with 2 swords appeared in front of him, cutting through everything in its path. Guchel also asked why Benjamin was in the clouds, and he gave him his hand, helping him to his feet. They stood shoulder to shoulder in the path of the dragons. But now all that remains of Guhel are charred embers, and Benjamin extends his hand to his son, inviting him to return to the train. The situation is not favorable, but they accomplished their mission, and Benjamin will deal with the wyverns later. After waiting for the moment when the wyverns are distracted, the machinist will move them and their son away from Untara, and the remaining people can be sacrificed if necessary. From now on, power over the train is concentrated exclusively in the hands of Benjamin. Solomon wonders if his father really thinks he'll just let things slide. The engineer assumed that his son might express disagreement. First, the smoke hail hits Solomon. The engineer's attempt to weave runes leads to nothing. He finds himself completely bound by his father's spell. The engineer reminds that he always told his son that he calculates his actions 2 steps ahead. The trio sees the level of tension during the dialogue between father and son from afar. Lan doesn't understand what happened, and the white tiger is sure that this is treason, as always happens with people. It is clear to BJ that the hunt for Untara was a pretext to eliminate Guhel, and Benjamin initially planned to abandon the rest to their fate, which in this context means to be torn apart by Untar. Jan is outraged at how they dare to use them so brazenly. The guy does not intend to remain in debt. Lan attacks the dragon with Storm Wind. True, this attack does not harm the dragon, but the girl herself is thrown back by a return gust. White Tiger Jose Beck goes on the offensive, intending to tear the dragon to shreds, but despite the tiger's threats, he repels the blow of the dragon's tail. Luckily, cats always land on their feet. Jose attacks again. Jan takes up the sword, realizing that he will only be able to use it for a couple of seconds. And if he doesn't finish the bastard off right away, he will remain helpless. So, he needs to minimize the risk. Taeyang mentally addresses the Storm Lord Arasil. The guy clarifies that the voice he heard when he was overwhelmed by mana belonged to Arasil. Taeyang asks him to help him again, promising to give it his all in return. Arasil replies that it is interesting, and tells the guy to demonstrate his intentions if he has decided so. Jan's hand feels how it is not skill that is pouring in, but Arasil's will itself. The changes are noticed by Untara, who tries to interrupt the process. The guy is outraged that the dragon attacks at the moment when he is trying to gain strength. The white tiger also climbs up the dragon with the help of its claws. Taeyang attacks the dragon with a kick. Untara notices Jose climbing up it, and he simply throws the tiger away with his tail, which also hits Taeyang. Lan and BJ inspect the trench the boy dug after being hit by the dragon's tail. Every cloud has a silver lining, but Jan picks up the second lightsaber left by Guhul, rank A. Taeyang states that he is now armed and ready to begin the fight. The system reports that Storm Lord Arasil is following Yang. The guy thanks Arasil for the buff, and it soars upward, spinning in a whirlwind. The dragon also closely monitors Jan's movements. He sees the guy falling on top of him. Taeyang understands that he is not yet as skilled with lightsabers as Guhel, and if he misses, it will be the end for all three of them. But the guy is determined to chop up the dragon, which rushes towards the enemy, opening its mouth and intending to incinerate in its dragon breath. Lan shouts that Yang is being completely reckless, but waves his fan. Taeyang notes that he was counting on the girl's support. Untara attacks again. The dragon does not give the enemy a moment to relax. Here the guy notices the rising sun. There is plenty of wind magic around, and Jan mentally calls out to Arasil. In front of him is an open dragon's mouth. Taeyang infuses both lightsabers with mana, and it shows what Arasil's style of dragon slaying is. Untara is cut exactly in two halves along the spine with surgical precision. The system reports that the white dragon of Untar has been destroyed, and the player, Yang Taeyang, receives the achievement Dragon Slayer. A soldier bursts in to report to Benjamin that Untara has been destroyed. Judging by the situation, it is clear that there are no more people on the train who are dissatisfied with the driver's autocracy. Solomon is bound by magical fetters. Benjamin's clothes are not entirely neat, and his face is spattered with blood. Viewers praise Taeyang, the Dragon Slayer. The guy, like some viewers, thinks that the chat is going a little crazy. Although Jan agrees that he outdid himself in this fight, his legs buckle from fatigue. But Lan prevents him from falling. She is convinced that Jan is really counting on her. But right now, Ian doesn't even have the strength to speak, because the lightsabers are devouring immeasurably more mana than he could have imagined. Jose can't accept that he was just a pawn in the engineer's dastardly plan. He grumbles that all three of them were stupidly used blindly. Lan is not eager to cooperate with the tiger, but their goal is to get back to the train to pass the floor. She sees Ian approaching the dragon carcass, but doesn't realize what he's going to loot. Some items can only be obtained here, so missing them would be extremely irrational. Dragon scales and wings are used to make armor. Weapons are made from fangs, claws, and bones. Blood is generally a high-quality component of various spells, but it is not these materials that Yang seeks to obtain, but the pure magic of the vessel with the dragon spirit, which gives a fantastic surge of mana when absorbed. Only a dragon's heart can give this. Lan is horrified by such horror and does not understand why the guy is extracting the dragon's heart. He simply explains that he wants to eat it. She opens her eyes wide in horror, not believing that Jan is actually going to eat the whole heart. But Taeyang immediately explains that he was joking and reaches his hand inside his heart, and he takes out a shining crystal from there. It is this small object that is called the dragon's heart. The Beastman and the girl watch Ian's manipulations in surprise. BJ is sure that the heart will be well absorbed if the guy absorbs it. Without thinking twice, he puts the crystal in his mouth and swallows it. The system informs you about receiving a special reward, the dragon heart. Lan knows that the colossal amount of mana contained in the dragon's heart has flowed into Taeyang. The guy suggests going back to the train, because it's time to completely clear this floor. Battered but alive, Captain Crusoe approaches them and offers to show them the way. The soldier reports to Benjamin that the rookies have confirmed Untara's murder. He asks if they should be killed before they return to the train. The soldier adds that the newcomer Taeyang was using a lightsaber. The engineer asks again, but the soldier adds that judging by the fluctuations in mana after using the swords, they cannot be reused. You need to kill the players outside the train and get these items back. They immediately report that 3 life forms have been spotted ahead, which are rapidly approaching and will be on the train in 3 minutes. The soldiers were ordered to prepare for a powerful blow in 1 minute. Benjamin's decrepit body has not seen much combat in a long time, so the effects of the stress are immediately felt. The soldier assures them that they will deal with the newcomers and let the driver recover safely. But Benjamin objects, because they were the ones who killed Untara. The driver asks for a cigarette. He no longer sees the point in protecting a body that may not survive. Benjamin is confident that he has nothing to lose and takes a drag on his cigarette with pleasure, from which a large half is suddenly cut off. The train carriage was cut through like soft butter with a table knife, and from above, a trio of recruits attacks. Taeyang advises everyone to tremble in horror and does not hide his wide smile. Lan activates Mighty Chaos Deity and Stormwind. Jose prepares Furious Claws of the White Tiger. But the players are greeted by a volley of firearms. The soldiers are ordered to take aim again and are told to open fire. And the Beastman is right in the line of fire. But Lan jumps out in front of him and activates Windshield, which not only protects her and the tiger from bullets, but also ricochets them back into the soldiers. Benjamin sees the Beastman and the Wind Mage, but does not notice where the third recruit is, which at this moment is already flying at him from above, and nails Benjamin's palms with his sword's Arc Raptor to the floor. The boy remembers how BJ warned him not to give Benjamin the opportunity to cast the spell. The driver smirks at the naive attempt to disarm him by simply shackle his hands. Benjamin exhales a spell. BJ shouts that the engineer is capable of casting spells without even casting them if he has prepared them in advance and is simply activating them now. The machinist uses smoke capture and dispersing anti-magic, and the next moment he is already on his feet and advancing on Taeyang. The guy activates the lightsabers and thanks the dragon for the heart, which makes the mana splash in him like a river. Benjamin sees a young Guchel before his eyes, but now it's Taeyang, who has learned to use the fusion of A-rank and B-rank lightsabers and wield one incredibly powerful sword. Jan cuts off Arc Raptor's left arm from the shoulder. The machinist can't believe the player is using the lightsaber to its full potential. Huge clouds of black smoke pour out of his shoulder. This is the summoned Atlas, sealed in Benjamin's left hand. The driver intends to finish off the player immediately, even if he has to spend a long time recovering. Rank 66 Demon Queen Chimera's finds the current situation problematic as she watches the game from the screens. Chimera's realizes that without intervention, the infinite express floor will be destroyed. And creating a floor with a well-thought-out structure and a rich scenario is an extremely labor-intensive task. Therefore, the bloodshed that is happening there must be stopped. The Demon Queen snaps her fingers. The floor, by right of the administrator, freezes for a pause. Everyone freezes, as if frozen. Queen Chimera's values this floor and does not intend to allow her brainchild to be destroyed so easily. So the next moment, Taeyang finds himself in the engine room. Along with him is a stunned Solomon, without the magical bonds that bind him. And also Lan, Jose, and one-armed Benjamin Arkraptor. Chimeras greets them, who introduces herself as the head of the floor, as well as the train engineer. Lan is surprised that the train's engineer turns out to be a demon. Benjamin and Chimeras greet each other. The Queen notes that she hasn't seen the engineer for a long time, because the last time they met, his skin was practically untouched by wrinkles. Chimeras apologizes to the players, but was forced to intervene for personal reasons. The Beastman growls, will he have to clear the floor again after everything they've been through? The Queen states that the players should be grateful to her, as they are in the engine room of the train and will receive rewards and achievements for their accomplishments. The audience is buzzing, but they are not particularly surprised by the admin's behavior, even though they are seeing such interference for the first time. Everyone thinks that additional awards are due. Lan suggests hurrying to the next floor before the demon starts acting up, but Taiyang disagrees and demands an additional reward. The audience roars approvingly. Otherwise, he threatens to finish off Benjamin, whom he has already almost defeated. Chimeras clarifies that the guy is threatening to kill the Demon King. Lan tries to calm down Yan's demands, saying that it is too dangerous to go against the Demon King. But the guy is sure that since the usually observing queen decided to intervene, it means she is trying to save her floor. There is a tense pause. Then Chimeras bursts into laughter and declares that she likes the guy. Taiyang is a very intriguing player. Therefore, she will grant 2 more achievements and a brilliant S+ class rating. Chimeras lets the players go to the next floor and thanks Yan for watching the floor with interest for the first time in a long time. The Queen adds that the dragon's heart is a wonderful bonus, but one must be careful because the dragon's mana is furious, so it must be controlled. Jose turns away, but John calls out to him and suggests that they go to the next floor together. The White Tiger is not inclined to such a decision after yet another human betrayal. Taiyang notices how stubborn Bayek is, and Lan has little desire to go along with the Beastman. Chimeras reports that Benjamin must return to the train. The Queen suggests treating the situation as if the engineer had saved the driver. Benjamin finds Chimeras' habit of always eavesdropping disgusting. Chimeras promises to visit Benjamin later. Suddenly, Solomon calls out to the demon. Solomon realizes that the reality of his world is a board game for a demon. Arkraptor Jr. wonders if he too can get out of this game. Chimeras understands that Solomon is a genius engineer, a follower of his father in engineering. And if he leaves, there will be few strong figures on the train. But one of the principles of the tower's spatial labyrinth is not to refuse players. And Chimeras allows Solomon to leave the floor. Benjamin can't believe that Solomon wants to leave when they can stay safely, since all threats to them have disappeared. Solomon declares that he will not be Benjamin's shadow. He will go into the big world and learn the secret of this tower. In the center, like the host of a popular talk show, sits a ranker stuck in the game with an outrageous appearance, minimal clothing, and multicolored eyes. She, calling herself the Messiah, welcomes the appearance of her long-awaited player, Yang Taiyang. Many viewers have heard of a ranker named Messiah who entered the game before Taiyang. Xena is concerned that she probably knows this player. The recreation area on the 15th floor is reminiscent of a medieval European city. As soon as he opened the door here, Jan saw a fairly large crowd gathered around the door. Lan doesn't understand what all these people gathered here are doing. At that moment, a strange-looking girl throws herself on Yan's neck, screaming, "I found you!" Neither Lan nor Taiyang have any idea who she is. The girl continues to hang on the guy's neck under the silent observation of the crowd surrounding them. Ian has no idea who the Messiah hanging around his neck is. Lan asks, "Who is this girl?" But the Messiah doesn't let the guy answer, saying that she missed him so much and tries to kiss him. However, Taeyang grabs the fan in his arms and drags her to the hotel. Summer welcomes the player to her lounge area. Ian sees the same NPC in front of him that was in the third-floor rest area, but she explains that for the player, she is everywhere. The NPC offers food and alcohol. The guy needs a room right away. Moreover, he does not offer Lan to come in, but asks him to wait in the common room. The girl is somewhat surprised by this turn of events. In her opinion, the Messiah looks simply abnormal. In the room, Messiah declares that John is brave, since after their first meeting he immediately took her to his room. As far as the guy understood, Messiah is a player who registered in the game before him. She claims that Jan is the only one who doesn't know her. The people following her are half-users, her subscribers, who become more numerous as she climbs the tower's labyrinth. The Messiah invites Jan to join her. The guy doesn't understand why she believes him. But Messiah explains that it's simply because he's a user. And who else can you trust here except users? BJ notes that many users have reached here, but Messiah is definitely among the strongest players. Jan knows about cases of betrayal by NPCs, and getting a knife in the back from a user wouldn't surprise him at all. Suddenly, the girl throws Jan onto the bed and jumps on top of him. The Messiah offers to take only her, without her crowd of subscribers. After all, Taeyang took Lan with him because she could be useful to him. Perhaps the Messiah could be useful to Yang too. The guy asks if she will really leave her friends to go with him. The Messiah suggests taking a broader view of the situation. For them, it's not about caring for others, but about cleaning up the game. Because their mission is to save the 300 million people trapped in this ill-fated game. And together, they will become real heroes. Messiah asks if Taeyang understands what she is saying. The system then tells the Messiah player to leave the hotel. Outside the door, she is immediately surrounded by followers asking how everything went and whether the player with more than 70 achievements will go with them to the next floor. Messiah remembers how Ian drove her away because he only needed to save one person. She tells her followers that Taeyang did not want to go with them. The followers shout that they trust her and will follow her. The Messiah declares that now John will not leave just like that. BJ does not inspire confidence in the Messiah's intentions, but one cannot help but acknowledge her power. But Ian believes that since they have different goals, the Messiah may be preventing him from saving Bella. The next morning, the system reports that Yan and Lan are leaving the hotel. The Messiah is waiting for them at the exit door from the recreation area, and a little further away, a crowd of her followers. Taeyang walks past them, saying that he's not responsible for them. They can follow him to the next floor, but they shouldn't count on him helping them. The Messiah is a little upset, but they don't need the guy's help. Jan and the girl approach the door, and they find themselves in a gloomy city. A pile of boxes falls from above. No one was hurt when they landed. On each of the boxes there is a portrait and a wanted poster. The reward amounts are also indicated. For the Swedish Angel, for example, 10 million is offered. The condition of the floor is the capture of the criminals for a reward of 20 million. A female figure watches over the players from above. A red-eyed stranger with a glass in her hand tells Hillary to prepare for uninvited guests. The Messiah and his followers look around. Taeyang is about to leave with Lan, and Messiah adds that they need to hurry, because the best food goes to the leader. The girl winks at Jan and leaves with her retinue. BJ explains that the tastiest things on this floor are the most wanted criminals. There is a reward in points for killing criminals hiding throughout the city. The goal is to get 20 million points. After collecting the points, you need to return to the boxes to complete the mission. And the highest reward is provided for the NPC Angel. BJ explains that Angel can be called a local bigwig, because this city is controlled by the vampire mafia. Now, Taeyang understands why not a single ray of sunlight penetrates the city. First, you need to find suitable clothes to go in search of the angel. The city woman calls for help in horror, but the two vampires only smile welcomingly. The boy asks what the city girl's blood type is. Here comes Jan, who considers the outfits of the local vampire punks quite suitable for his purposes. Visitors are having fun at the local angel club. Yan and Lan arrive in trophy costumes. Lan has to wear such an outfit for the first time, so she doesn't feel completely comfortable. But Yan's audience is pleased with the spectacle. And the guy realizes that the vampire club is almost the same as the real ones. It seems that he has returned to his world. But the guys immediately notice the group of merry vampires, because they are not filled with alcoholic drinks, but with bags of blood. BJ reports that Angel's company has created and distributes Hormone B. This awakening agent instantly transforms the human body into a vampire's, sharpening senses that are not available to the average person. Therefore, Hormone B is considered a floor condition. It is the most famous reward that can be obtained here. An injection during combat transforms the body halfway. This will give the ability to regenerate and some vampire skills. That is, it will not be possible to destroy such drug addicts easily and quickly. And to get to the Angel, you need to bypass security in the far part of the club. Agnel watches everything that happens in his club, with the ever-present glass in hand. Suddenly, the Angel sneezes loudly. She has a bad feeling about this. She tells Hillary's assistant to bring napkins. But instead of napkins, a knife is held to her throat. This is the Messiah appearing. The Angel wonders how the Messiah got past the guards. Getting rid of the guys in the hallway was a bit of a hassle. We also knitted Hillary, so there won't be any napkins for now. The Messiah offers the Angel to give it to her. The Angel states that the girl has come for the head of the princess of this city, the most powerful vampire who inherited the blood of the great Swedish angel. But suddenly he hears a negative answer. The Messiah wishes to receive an invitation for tonight. The Angel is surprised that the girl knows about the upcoming night. The Messiah is interested in the origin of the original recipe for making Hormone B, the distribution of which is carried out by Angel. The vampire understands that the original recipe is able to free them from parasites, but it is not clear how the girl knows about its origin. In exchange for the invitation, the Messiah promises to share information. The system reports that Angel has sent an invitation to the Messiah player. If the Angel studies the origin of the original recipe, he will repay the humiliation he suffered with 100-fold. But the vampire is glad that the girl is not interested in the actual Hormone B, which will appear at the auction tonight. She keeps the substance Hormone B in a 44-layer vault, which is sealed in an ancient vampire way. It cannot be opened without the blood of an angel. A security guard bursts in immediately, shouting about the storage facility. It turns out that the storage facility has been attacked. Messiah praises Taeyang for a great move. Upon entering the room, Angel discovers the vault simply chopped into pieces. Kindly enclosed note. Entry made by Yang Taeyang. If interested in the contents, the meeting will take place on the 7th floor. At first, the Angel is expectedly indignant. Jan, holding the chest under his arm, declares that the number of layers of storage does not matter to him. The system reports that Angel has sent an invitation to Taeyang. The guys will have to visit the upcoming auction in the Twilight City. Guests are starting to arrive at the event. An impressive security guard at the entrance carefully checks invitations. The Messiah has this. The security guard gives the guest a mask. Taeyang also receives a mask upon entering. The Messiah greets the guy. Seeing that the sorceress is not with him now, she immediately sticks to Jan's hand as a companion. In the hall, guests sit at round tables. Among the guests are 3 of the most wanted vampires, as confirmed by BJ. While the matter is going on, the guests are chatting that the famous Angel's vault has been cleaned out. No one knows if the rumors about Hormone B are true. They even say that Angel herself is dead. Ian expected that Angel would not cancel his auction, even though he had stolen Hormone B, in order not to tarnish his reputation. An angel floats onto the stage and greets his beautiful guests, who have gathered on a wonderful crimson night. She immediately notices Taeyang. Since there are many important gentlemen among those gathered, she will not waste time and proposes to begin the auction of tonight's items. People with their hands shackled in stocks and with bags over their heads, on which their blood type is indicated, are put up as lots. The state of the people cannot be called appetizing. All kinds of jewelry will also be put up for sale. The guests immediately become noticeably more animated. Yana is outraged that crazy bastards are selling people at auction. Suddenly, Jan's table is surrounded by people with machine guns in their hands. All guns are aimed at the couple sitting at the table. Before the auction begins, Angel is forced to deal with the rats. The guy with a sly grin asks if Angel is being too harsh with his guests. Angela is shaking with rage. She orders to open fire so that nothing remains of the couple. The order is executed immediately, but it is not possible to continue firing. because the machines are turning into useless stumps. Taeyang states that he was even a little scared at first, because he got involved with the real mafia. But now he's just disappointed. The hall freezes in silent stupor. Angel doesn't understand the guy's idea, but she's sure that without a penny in his pocket, he has no business at the auction. Taeyang assures that he has an incredibly generous sponsor, and the angel is forced to start the auction. The first lot is a sword created 700 years ago by a great wizard to fight fallen angels. The lot is sold for 12 million. The skull of the 1,000th person drunk by the angel is on display. The starting bid is 1 million. The audience is whispering that Angel, as always, is trying to make money even on the bones. There are no bets. Suddenly, someone appears who wants to buy the skull. The entire hall, as well as the auction organizer herself, were in shock. The angel hisses that the guy doesn't even have that much money. Instead of answering, he openly displays a pile of gold and jewelry provided by his generous sponsor. Angel acknowledges the sponsor's incredible generosity out loud. But inside, she's seething with anger, because the guy is using her own jewelry to buy it. Then, Taeyang also buys the Pygmalion sculpture for 200 million, the Viscount's collection of treasures worth 3 million, and also the portrait Birth of the Goddess for 5 million. At the same time, Jan looks quite pleased, and the viewers in the chat are asking him to buy them something too. Then the bloodstone is displayed. Taeyang overhears talk in the hall that it is rumored that the bloodstone can be used to become a vampire. BJ confirms that bloodstone can make you a vampire, but other ingredients are needed. There is an urban legend about a book with an original method for making hormone B, with which you can become a vampire without being bitten by another vampire. The biter has complete control over those he has turned with his bite, and hormone B was actually developed as an experiment to remove control from a bitten vampire. The Messiah makes a bet of 2 million. At the same time, she clarifies that she will be able to take her purchase back. Taeyang doesn't care. The audience demands to see the main lot, because of which everyone has gathered here. However, Angel tries to explain that due to certain circumstances, today's auction has come to an end. The audience is indignant, and John, sprawled on the sofa, also demands to see the main lot. He stands up and declares that he is sure that Angel has hormone B. At the same time, the guy takes a flask from his bosom. The audience jumps out of their seats and shouts that this amount will be enough for a whole month. All the guests' eyes light up at the sight of the coveted prey. The vampires approach the guy, intending to finish him off and take possession of the flask. Taeyang tells Lan to get ready. The wind mage meditates on the roof in a circle of inscribed runes. There is a candle burning in front of the magician, which Lan blows out, and she gets to her feet, saying that she hasn't seen so much snow at once for a very long time. The system is full of messages about the elimination of criminals and the awarding of rewards. Only the names and amounts change. Taeyang is very good with his bare hands, throwing punches left and right. The vampire who dared to call Ian an idiot gets a punch in the teeth. So, from his own experience, the guy finds out that vampires have incredibly strong teeth. As Taeyang examines his bruised fist, BJ shouts that the vampire is attacking from behind. But before the guy can react, the vampire receives a dagger in the middle of his forehead. The Messiah assures that there is no need for gratitude. However, the vampire, struck in the forehead by a dagger, rises to his feet again with burning eyes. Like all the creatures around the boys, the Messiah does not despair. She has prepared a set of weapons specifically for exterminating vampires. Aspen stakes, which she skillfully throws. Again, the system's messages about eliminating criminals and awarding rewards flow in a stream. At this point, a group of new visitors burst into the hall, who are just as warmly greeted by aspen stakes in the chest area. But the visitor, pierced through and through by the stake, smiles maniacally from ear to ear and states that he felt the stake strike many years ago. The Messiah wonders what kind of strange vampire this is. Those who arrived were ordered to catch people. BJ thinks now is the right time. Taeyang readily activates the skill and uses the Dragon Fist in all its unrivaled power. The force of the impact blows off the roof of the building, and a column of bright flame bursts into the sky, which Lan watches from a nearby roof. The girl immediately activates the wind technique and calls upon the 13 laws of divine chaos power. A huge hurricane column appears and rushes into the sky following Jan's strike. The thick cover of twilight clouds has been broken. The sun is shining brightly over the city. Its rays immediately penetrate through the broken roof into the hall. Taeyang offers to enjoy the sunlight, and the children of eternal darkness attempts to survive. As the vampires burn out, a bunch of system messages about eliminating criminals and awarding a reward appear again. The angel manages to hide from the sun's rays behind a column, but her face was somewhat damaged. The angel was furious. How dare the pathetic little humans do such a thing? She turns into a bat and leaves the auction hall, flying over her burning fellow race members. Messiah and Taeyang give each other a high five. And only after the fact does John realize that he did it completely unexpectedly for himself. The Messiah selflessly screams with the delight of victory nearby. She asks the guy that they worked well together. He mutters that it was just this once. Lan comes running and asks if their plan worked. Yang smiles. Lan is amazing, as is her signature move, which puzzles not only Messiah, but Lan herself, who has never heard anything like it before. The confused girl explains that she is an experienced wind mage with a good reputation. This is normal for her level. Lan finds out that Angel Yang missed. The Messiah assures that there is no need to worry. Her subordinates have set off in pursuit of the angel. The bat reaches the dungeon, and the battered angel again takes on human form. Here the followers of the Messiah overtake her. But they do not receive a reward, but eternal peace. With their blood, the angel draws a pentagram. Then he bites his wrist and adds his own blood to the pentagram. The signs are instantly activated, and the blood begins to glow. The glow grows stronger and more powerful. A rainbow halo appears around him. A whirlwind of dark clouds immediately gathers over the city, which quickly cover the sky over the city again. The sun illuminated the city for a very short time. The one whom Angel called appears, Countess Dracula of Transylvania, Angel's mother. Mother and daughter greet each other. Dracula notices that a lot of time has passed and asks why her daughter called her now. Looking at the thickening of dark clouds, the wind mage immediately feels a vampire aura. BJ asks to return to the boxes because they have already collected the necessary points. Here appears a half-dead follower of the Messiah, who rushes towards her man. The Messiah asks where the angel is and what happened to the other followers. He shows off his vampire fangs and announces that she has awakened. The Messiah mercifully ends his follower's vampiric existence. Suddenly the hatch cover starts to move. Then she is torn off by a fountain of blood that shoots up above the rooftops. Under the bloody rain, the figure of Dracula appears in the sky. Neither Jan nor Lan understand who she is. The figure waves its hand. In response to her gesture, the asphalt begins to rise, from under which clawed limbs extend. Soon the three boys are surrounded by vampires that have emerged from underground. And here comes the angel with a machine gun at the ready. Dracula tells his brothers to wake up. At the same time, the angel tells the people to burn in hell and opens a barrage of fire on the three guys. Lan and Messiah bounce off the bullets in different directions. Vampires are pressing from all sides. Dracula raises his hand and bloody bombs appear next to it. The ancient vampire clenches her fist and activates Blood Flow Burst, sending clots of blood from the bombs flying in all directions. Taeyang is busy cutting up blood bombs, which explode from all sides. The guy systematically exterminates them, but he is aiming at the vampire, whom he intends to knock out with one blow before she can use her strange blood magic again. When approaching an enemy, he activates his lightsaber. But Dracula immediately grabs the guy by the throat with his tenacious hand. Ian is unable to loosen the grip of the ancient vampire. And Dracula is glad that the guy himself came to her for a snack after a long sleep. But at that moment, Taeyang turns around and cuts off the bloodsucker's hand. She clearly didn't expect this turn of events. Dracula admits that the guy has an interesting sword, since he was able to cut off her hand, which immediately regenerates. and he sends a column of thick darkness towards Taeyang. When in contact with the blade of a lightsaber, this darkness disintegrates into hordes of bats, which hover like a cloud around the guy, and they wrap it with a black ribbon. The sword falls out of John's hands. Dracula advises to consider the reward that the boy will become a vampire. She opens her mouth and points her fangs at Taeyang's neck. He says that the vampire is already starting to irritate him and throws Dracula to the ground. She, lying flat, finds the man's resistance endearing. And the next moment, the guy is already bound in bloody bonds, which seem to seep under the skin. Plus, it continues to rain blood. Lan calls the guy by name, which does not escape Dracula's attention. The monster explains that the name Yang Taeyang is given to someone who is born with the purpose of exterminating all vampires. Jan declares that the vampire race will be exterminated. The vampire believes that mortals often have persecution mania, and the boy will become part of her race. This will set Jan free, and he will have a completely new life. A worried Lan watches what is happening. She screams the guy's name in despair, unable to help in any way. The Messiah also watches in horror as the ancient vampire drinks Taeyang's blood, and he clearly enjoys the process. The system lights up with a red window, indicating that the hemophilia condition is irreversible. Dracula, tasting the blood of this man, feels anger, guilt, and longing, coupled with a deep note of despair from the loss of his sister. The vampire commands the pitiful mortal to accept her power and no longer feel the painful sorrow. On this note, Dracula finishes his first meal since waking up. Jan feels like his veins are on fire. The guy tries to clear his throat, and Dracula tells him to accept her power and become sinless. Taeyang growls in anger and swings his fist. He almost hits the monster in the face. The guy then comes out of a tense internal struggle. Xenia freezes at the monitor. Dracula calmly states that a son cannot go against his mother's will. She orders her son to kneel. Taeyang resists with all his might, but the blood of an ancient vampire is an undeniable argument. The guy involuntarily falls to his knees. Dracula praises Jan, calling him part of her family. She orders him to look at those who tortured him and demands that their blood be sacrificed to her. Lan and Messiah look at the guy warily. Ian, with a bottomless darkness in his eyes, grabs the lightsaber, which now burns not with gold, but with a blood-red light. He doesn't hesitate to attack the girls. Lan screams for him to wake up, but is forced to defend himself with his fan. Taeyang cuts through her wind without slowing down for a second. Suddenly a thread entangles his hands. This is where the Messiah comes into play. The one who straddles the guy like a rodeo bull and yells at him why he doesn't open his eyes? The Messiah realizes that Dracula has completely knocked John unconscious. Taeyang draws his sword, cuts the thread, and throws the Messiah away. Then he freezes in a pose that is completely unnatural for him. Lan addresses him by name. BJ runs circles around Ian's head, but can't get through to him. Dracula tells his son to stop the wind, and the guy, like an obedient puppet, rushes into the attack. Lan is protected by the wind, which is not an obstacle for a lightsaber. The mage then activates the wind technique, Great Storm, and adds Storm Strike to it. Taeyang swings a red sword over his head. Lan sees the hurricane column begin to turn red from the inside, and turns into bloody rain. The arrows are aimed at Lan, who is trying to hide behind her fan. But a bloody stream sweeps away the girl, along with her elegant weapon, and he slams it pretty hard against the wall. And next to him stands Jan with his sword drawn. The guy attacks. Lan desperately holds his fan out in front of him, which is cut into two parts by a lightsaber. The girl is confident that she will be able to reach John's consciousness, who attacks again, but this time she has nothing to defend herself with. Lan will then activate the skill Gentle Cold. At first, the arrow-like streams of bloody rain turn into large, harmless drops. Dracula sees her newly converted one hiding under a magical dome. The vampire feels her mana stop working. Lan, with a pleading look in his eyes, asks Jan to come to his senses, because they still need to deal with the top of the tower. But the guy's eyes are still pitch black. Everyone is watching what is happening closely. Xenia doesn't take her eyes off the laptop screen. Wind magic contains the powers of the moon and the wind. A skilled air mage casts a spell that turns him into a wind entity. As this entity, the mage enters the body, breathing life into it. With this spell, the magician penetrates into the very soul of a person. Lan feels unbearably stuffy and hot, and in the guy's heart, the sultry wind becomes stronger and stronger. The guy's soul is experiencing terrible torment. Taeyang's consciousness becomes more and more clouded with each passing second. The boy's very soul is on fire, and Lan's essence begins to smolder, trying to get closer to the soul. Lan sees that there is only a little bit of heat left to overcome, but most of her wind essence has also burned away. The girl, in her last impulse, desperately calls out to Jan's soul, who manages to grab with his hand a particle of Lan's magical essence, which is disappearing under the scorching heat. Dracula is surprised to feel the instability of the connection. When bitten by a vampire, a person's blood becomes cold and their heart stops. And when the bitten one's breath stops, his life as a vampire begins. Turned vampires are unable to resist the commands of the mother, who gave them new life with her bite. It doesn't matter at all how much the bitten person resists. It is simply impossible for a bitten person to resist the mother's orders. Messiah and Xena watch with bated breath, and Dracula is about to attack the magic dome with his bloody bomb. But then the system informs about rewinding the list of actions. The bomb covers the magic dome with blood, but does not destroy it. But when the blood gradually drains, Taeyang's figure becomes visible. Xena, Lan, and Messiah look hopefully at the familiar pose and smirk. The system reports that player Yang Taeyang has been returned to the state he was in 20 minutes ago. The abnormal state of vampirism has been stopped. The guy feels with pleasure how the blood in his body warms up, and his heart, which had stopped beating, picks up its previous rhythm. Taeyang is glad to feel like a living person again. Dracula does not believe that the boy broke the connection. This is considered impossible. She gets furious and screams that Jan can't get rid of her. Bloody bombs are heading towards the magical dome from all sides. Jan does not enter into arguments, but immediately rushes into attack. BJ yells that the guy is still under the effect of Lan's freezing magic, so the abilities will only activate after 10 seconds. Dracula screams that she cannot be hit, and immediately receives a powerful hook to the jaw. The guy raises his hand for the next blow, and he gloats that the ancient vampire cannot use his power. BJ reminds him that there are still 5 seconds left, but Ian counters that he has enough. Taeyang unleashes a series of lightning-fast strikes, each one infused with his hatred for vampires. Dracula is no longer as arrogant as he was when he woke up. The system informs that the freezing power has been released, and the skill is being upgraded. Yang uses Crossed Truth's strike. As a result, the curtain of crimson clouds over the city breaks through. The burning Dracula screams that she gave the guy eternal life. Why did he resist this gift? Taeyang smiles and says that he has too long a journey ahead of him to waste his time on it. The sky above the city is clear again. Lan and Yang admire its transparent blue, but suddenly, the girl's legs give way. Taeyang catches Lan, preventing her from falling. The boy remembers nothing from the moment Dracula took control of him. He asks to tell how he managed to free himself. Instead of answering, Jan receives a noticeable blow to the head. Taeyang is confused as to why Lan suddenly hit him so hard. The smoldering remains of Dracula bubble indignantly. How dare a man oppose her? But the uncompromising foot of the Messiah puts an end to this gurgling once and for all. Inside the remains is a tome of manuscripts with the original ritual for making Hormone B. The Messiah is not surprised that the method of production was kept by the most secretive creature. The system states that the Messiah receives a special reward, the item manuscript. Then, out of nowhere, a battered angel crawls up to her and demands that she give her the manuscript. But the sunlight that broke through has a different opinion. The raking angel literally burns to nothing. The system reports that the level has been completed. Yang uses a recovery skill on Lan. The Messiah gives the boy one last chance to join her and her surviving followers. Taeyang doesn't change his mind and chooses to refuse. Messiah accepts his refusal with a smile, although she is not one of those women who give up easily. But this time, she will do as Ian wants. The Messiah says goodbye to Taiyang until they meet again at the top of the tower and leaves surrounded by his followers. The guy just smirks in response to such a statement. All around is a gloomy volcanic landscape. The players discover a cave and decide to enter it. But the last one is pushed out again. They cynically explain to him that they took him only as bait. The player who remains outside sees that his calculating comrades have entered straight into the jaws of the monster, which immediately slams shut with a growl. The huge dragon roars and opens its insatiable mouth again. Many dragons swoop down from everywhere and grab players in their mouths. This is the Dragon King Valrak's territory on the Banquet Hall level. Banquet Hall is a breeding level for the Dragon King, and it got its name because players become food for the insatiable inhabitants of the level. The system reports that Yan and Lan are entering the Banquet Hall. Lan is surprised to see that they are probably planning to kill all the players before the game starts. Ian realizes that this level is completely different from all the previous ones. The Banquet Hall seems to be specially created to kill all the players. Suddenly the guy feels his heart rhythm become irregular. He falls to his knees in front of the girl, who doesn't understand anything. On the cliff above them towers the Dragon King Valrak himself. He welcomes the Dragon Slayer, who has fearlessly stepped onto his level. But it is not the dragon who speaks, but the Demon King of the 62nd rank, Balrog, who rises on his head. Lan wonders what the demon is doing here. The Balrog roars that the Dragon Slayer has killed the dragon and taken its heart. In the Dragon King's realm, Balrog intends to cut out the heart that Ian stole from the white dragon Untara. The guy's chest feels like it's being torn apart from the inside. But then, a Talmud appears next to Balrog, stating that direct attacks by players on demons are prohibited. The book wonders if it is necessary to remind him of the consequences of violating this prohibition. In response, Balrog only growls angrily, but he unclenches his clawed paw. Jan immediately has a heart attack. Xena looks at the monitor in amazement. Did the demon really attack the player directly? Balrog, standing on the dragon's head, states that it doesn't matter because all the players here will die anyway. Baby dragons will be hungry for 24 hours. Level objective: survive for 24 hours. The king crashes down the slope beneath the feet of the players he wishes to fall and die, with the gaping, insatiable jaws of dragons waiting below. Yan and Lan also fly down. From all sides, cries for help are heard, mixed with the groans of the dying. The game is being watched by the Demon Kings. The demons whisper to each other, discussing particularly pressing issues. Many people laugh. The dragons continue their bloody feast in the banquet hall. One of the desperate players decides to end his life to avoid becoming a dragon's dinner. Shedding tears, he holds a dagger to his throat. But someone's hand pulls the potential suicide's hand away from his neck. Another player helps the would-be victim of circumstances to get up and encourages him that not all is lost. There is a chance to survive. Before the savior can finish speaking, he disappears mid-sentence into the mouth of another voracious dragon. Rescued, covered in splashes of his blood, he was simply in shock. But the insatiable mouth opens again, and the player sets off after his fellow sufferer. Demons observe disappointing statistics for players in completing the level. The kings are not happy. The players are dying like flies, no matter which one you bet on. One of the observers assures that the next candidate will not disappoint. Balrog disapproves of these bets, considering his colleagues idiots for whom the battlefield is just a joke. Because of this, Balrog himself feels like an idiot. He silently turns around and leaves. Taeyang and Lan are surrounded on all sides by hungry dragon mouths. The guy hits the nearest dragon in the neck, stretching its muzzle towards them, but the damage simply doesn't go away. After being struck by Balrog, Ian is unable to control the mana in the dragon's heart, and therefore cannot use the lightsaber. The boys are left to run away. After all, Lan lost her fan, and the strong wind magic was still on cooldown. And as luck would have it, Absolutely all of the great multitude of surrounding dragons are no less powerful than the barely defeated Untara. Taeyang thinks he should try to avoid the dragons. But at that moment, the dragon's mouth grabs his hand with surgical precision. Together with its prey, the dragon soars into the sky. The dragon that grabbed the guy is immediately joined by a mass of its relatives. The monsters kick the man towards each other as if playing football with him. Jan looks pretty worn out. Lan, observing the strange behavior of the creatures, understands that the dragons are deliberately playing with the guy without killing him. The girl feels the anger of the dragons towards the man who killed their relative, the white dragon, Untara. But at some point, the exhausted guy flies straight into the open dragon's mouth. Lan takes off without thinking. Taeyang opens his eyes slightly, but he sees his little sister Bella in front of him. He reaches out to her and hugs her with all his might, and the dragon's mouth above them opens wider to swallow a double portion of human flesh. And at this dramatic moment, the sparkling blizzard is activated on the dragon, turning the monster into a giant ice sculpture. Yan, Lan, and even BJ are shocked by the surprise. A confident figure jumps briskly across the ice sculpture. This is Solomon Arkraptor, wondering if Ian missed him. The guy, exhausted by the dragon's amusements, cannot immediately remember who is in front of him. BJ suggests that this is Engineer Solomon, an NPC from the Infinite Express level. However, she doesn't understand at all how a leveled NPC with an ever-present frozen cigarette in his teeth could get here. Solomon is disappointed that he has already been forgotten, even though the NPC climbed the tower and went through grueling training to become as strong as Ian. To Arkraptor, who is standing on the head of an ice sculpture, from all sides, Solomon thanks Ian for the dragon-catching experience he has gained and throws 2 of his frozen cigarettes into the air at once. Many runes light up above him, which he points in the direction of the dragons. Flying through the magic ring, the dragon immediately turns into an ice sculpture and clumsily and extremely noisily falls to the ground. Arkraptor, like a proud sculptor, stands at the foot of his creation. He intends to thank Taeyang for saving everyone at his level. Balrog picks up on warning signals, and he sees the players' statistics that are depressing to him. The Demon Kings are surprised and murmur, "Who are these people who are achieving success at the level of Balrog? Everyone is betting on them." And then there are also bets on the number of dragons that the 3 players will be able to kill. As soon as Solomon froze the creatures, the emboldened Taeyang zealously entered into action. He takes great pleasure in smashing ice sculptures like a tireless vandal. Balrog sees such chaos and boils with rage. Some insignificant thing dares to kill his dragons. The Demon King enters the banquet hall level. Dantalion appears nearby in his red fancy suit and states that Balrog is on the brink, and demons cannot kill players. Dantalion is like a red rag to a bull on the Dragon Lord. Balrog doesn't care that he's committing a violation. He's going to destroy the bastard. The system window warns about the violation of the rules. Dantalion kindly reminds that even if Balrog wishes to leave, he still cannot violate discipline. But Balrog can make a bet at any moment. The dandy wonders if the enraged Dragon Lord would like to argue with him. The horns and legs of the ice sculptures fan out in all directions. But the trio turns out to be the only survivors on this level. The system reports that after destroying monsters on the field, the level is automatically counted as completed. Then another message follows asking if player Yang Taeyang accepts Balrog's PvP challenge. Jan doesn't understand how to evaluate such a challenge to PvP. BJ has never heard that PvP against the level administrator, the Demon King, is even possible. She thinks that's another mistake. Jan thinks out loud about what he should choose. But then a hand reaches out from the system window and grabs the guy by the head. Balrog yells at the idiot to stop talking nonsense about having a choice and follow him. The Demon King and Taeyang hide in the system window. Neither Solomon nor Lan know what's going on. The engineer, taking a drag from his magic cigarette, sees the space inside the rift through it and thinks that it might be some kind of magic circles. Solomon activates the Rift Freeze skill. Arkraptor grabs Lan's hand and drags him faster into the rift before it closes. Through a strange space, they fall towards the arena, around which the spectator seats are arranged in an amphitheater. Balrog squeezes Jan's head with his paw and gloats that he will mercifully allow his reckless friends to die here quietly, since they came after him. But then a sarcastic voice declares that it is not time yet. A snap of fingers is heard around the Balrog, just like around Taeyang. Dantalion declares that he will be the second in this duel. Jan screams for the demon to explain what's going on here. He readily explains. There are 3 rules. First, the demon and the player fight with the characteristics of the same level. That is, demonic power is prohibited. Second rule, the duel lasts until one of the parties loses its fighting ability. Third rule, if Ian wins PvP, his group members also receive a reward. The system window asks to make a choice. Does John accept the challenge or not? BJ screams that in PvP against a demon, the player is at a disadvantage. And since there is a choice window, Balrog lied, and Ian has a choice. BJ insists that the boy refuses to accept the challenge. But Ian is not going to follow her advice, because the reward offered is a jump to level 23. BJ realizes that Dantalion knows that Bella is stuck on level 37. Taeyang doesn't refuse such an offer, because even if Balrog is a demon, with the same characteristics as Jan, it's worth a try. Dantalion shows his satisfied smile to the whole world. Balrog throws the guy aside on the fly. The figure of the Demon King is ablaze with bright flames. He asks with glee, "Is it worth trying?" Here the system reports that the Dragon King's stats are reduced by 999,999. The guy has no intention of just giving up. The Demon King hits him in the arm, and after his touch, Ian's body begins to burn. Balrog threatens to show the difference in their strength. The Demon Kings watch the duel closely. Every detail can be seen close up. Yan, who flew off to the side, feels as if his hand is burning in the bone itself at the point of impact. He is outraged because these can in no way be called equal levels. Taeyang goes on the attack again. The opponent's fists meet. The result of the collision was simply explosive. And again the rivals meet. A hail of blows rains down on the guy, to which he responds in kind. Nobody intends to give in. Solomon is unable to break through the protective barrier, and all he and Lan can do is simply watch. The girl clarifies that John is fighting the demon with equal strength, but Solomon objects this is not true, because Ian is fighting at full strength. Taeyang intends to finally finish off his opponent, and activates Dragon's Fist of Victory, but the Demon King calmly intercepts his hand, surprised to see a copy. Balrog ironically asks permission to demonstrate the original, and activates Level 1 Dragon Fist, which simply sweeps the guy away. Following immediately is Level 2 Dragon Fist, then Heavenly Dragon Fist. The guy who grabbed it, choking on his own blood, is indignant. Is this really considered the same characteristics among demons? Taeyang doesn't even see his opponent's fist, and can't guess from which direction it will come. And Balrog looms like a real dragon, asking if the man really expected to defeat the Demon King. Yan, flying away from another blow, wonders if this is the difference between him and Balrog, and the opponent proclaims Level 3 Dragon Fist. The blow that the Demon King delivers is simply terrifying in its power. On top, Balrog adds Meteorite Bloom. Taeyang is sprawled out in the middle of the arena. Solomon and Lan, Xena, and even Dantalion stand frozen in tense anticipation. Ian remembers how, as a child, he first signed up for a virtual reality game. The player's capsules were located in a specially equipped common room. The boy was surprised by his feelings. He could move, but walking was harder than in real life. Out of habit, he encountered some level 89 brute, who immediately asked if the newcomer wanted to challenge him. The level 1 boy immediately got his ass kicked. And without any strategies, this newbie became very strong in video games. The reason for this was his observation skills. He never let his opponent out of his sight for a second, even when he was being beaten. And the blows received, Jan simply made his own. Taeyang's adaptation is incredible, so he still plays video games, Balrog is already rejoicing, but the guy stubbornly gets to his feet. Ian intends to test the same blows he just took on the Demon King. Balrog is surprised to admit that there is tenacity in the enemy's character. He invites the person to try if he dares at all. And Jan tries, and quite not bad at all. The opponents measure their gazes. Solomon is simply shocked, because in just an instant, the guy perfectly copies the Demon King's Dragon Fist. First up, Level 1 Dragon Fist, which blows the helmet off the Demon King's head, which enrages Balrog once again. And the enraged demon offers to copy the Level 66 Dragon Fist. The power of the inevitable blow is simply terrifying. But Taeyang has no intention of giving up his position. Suddenly, the dragon's heart comes to life again in his heart. But something completely new is happening. The impact site of the Level 66 Dragon Fist looks like the ashes of a bomb explosion. Solomon, Lan, and the Balrog himself wait with suspense to see what will appear before their eyes when the smoke clears. And the sight is simply incredible. Taeyang looks like a dragon man, and the preparation for a counterattack already produces a completely different, alarming impression. Solomon explains that now the mana of Untara's heart and Ian's body have merged in perfect harmony. This was possible because the heart of the white dragon Untara reacted to the Balrog's attack, which the boy would not have survived on his own. And the dragon's heart merged with the human body into one. Balrog is surprised. The power of the attack has only caused the enemy to develop further. The Demon King finds this man interesting. Despite the protective barrier, the force of the shockwave from Taeyang's counterattack is felt by both Lan and Solomon. The Balrog is even more furious than before. The demon and the man are set for a serious confrontation. Balrog declares that he will fight with all his might, without limits. But even after such a statement, the guy doesn't even think about backing down. Everything around shakes from the colossal power. It seems as if two dragons, Golden and Ruby, are confronting each other, and not one of the royally powerful beasts shows the slightest intention of retreating. Demon King strikes with all his might, and only after committing the act does he freeze, realizing its irreparability. Taeyang is simply pressed into the wall of the amphitheater. The guy's clothes are torn to shreds, and there are signs of multiple injuries on his body. Before his eyes, the mortal battle between two dragons continues. But then a familiar, ironic voice bursts into the subconscious, saying that his death here would be problematic. After which the guy is literally pulled back into reality by the scruff of the neck by a powerful hand. Balrog sees Dantalion in front of him, who, with his trademark beaming grin, announces, "Balrog lost the fight after using a demonic power forbidden in this duel." Balrog, gritting his teeth, acknowledges this fact. Dantalion stands in front of the winner, who is imprinted into the wall. The Demon King congratulates his favorite. Lan and Solomon are extremely excited about what is happening, but the protective barrier disappears after the winner is declared, and the guys rush to the guy who just woke up. He asks how the PvP ended. Before they can answer him, the impressive figure of Balrog appears next to them. At first, the Dragon Lord silently looks at the guy and grinds his shark-like demonic teeth. Then he turns around and says that somehow, in some incomprehensible way, the man defeated him after a long battle in a real fight. Balrog promises to watch over the boy. Dantalion says that he will keep his promise and take the boy to the 38th floor of the tower. The winner's face still shows the same unbending determination, which is seen in great detail by the Demon Kings who watch the duel. They maintain a wary silence. The mysterious demon clarifies that the winner of the duel is from Earth and snaps his fingers. The countdown timer starts from 168 hours, and time ticks relentlessly. Breaking news is turning on around the world. A countdown has appeared in virtual reality capsules. The countdown started simultaneously on all the players' capsules in Dantalion. Experts claim that once the countdown ends, the capsules will stop working. This means that players inside them will die when the countdown ends. Everyone is asked to use the capsules with caution. The developers do not know the reasons for the timer's appearance, but they are working on quickly identifying this reason. Otherwise, players will die in a week. The mysterious demon who started the timer with a simple snap of his fingers wonders if Earth's Taiyang will be the last player. The flag, tattered from many battles, flutters in the wind. A trio of players stand in a seemingly uninhabited wasteland. Ian remembers how they ended up here. Dantalion picked up his mysterious grimoire. For some time, the Demon King rustled the pages of the magic tome. Then a pentagram appeared behind him, from which a powerful column of energy burst forth. Solomon, with his ever-present cigarette in his teeth, immediately figured out the secret spatial magic for moving around the floors of the tower, and became interested in creating the spell. Dantalion, smiling, assures that after passing this stage, players will immediately gain access to the 38th level. The trio rushes towards the Pillar of Energy, but the suit-wearing lover announces that he and the other demons have a small gift for the players. Dantalion snaps his fingers. Taeyang's clothes begin to crackle and pixelate, and then inexplicably transforms into a new outfit. Dantalion explains that while maintaining all the previous characteristics and parameters, their equipment looks like clothing from Earth. Lan is delighted that her fan has been completely restored to its original form. Dantalion notices that Solomon has managed to acquire something from chimeras. The guy wonders why Dantalion is doing this. The red-eyed dude states that perhaps the reason is that he is interested in seeing what the endgame is like. He really hopes that the player Yang Taiyang will live up to their expectations. With these parting words from the Demon King, the trio enters the Pillar of Light, and they find themselves in a wasteland about which there is no information at all, because no player on Earth has ever gone that far. Taeyang can't believe that his little sister Bella is in this deserted land. Solomon immediately declares that all debts have been paid, so he suggests that they go their separate ways. And then he steps on a strange piece of land. The next moment, the entire trio is trapped. Jan yells furiously that if Solomon is going to leave, then why not do it carefully? But, frankly speaking, none of them expected to find a trap in such a deserted and lifeless place. Immediately, flashes of dark energy cut through the space around. At first, the heads of very evil-looking monsters appear from the flashes. Then the monsters themselves appear from all sides, crawling out of their individual portals. The trapped trio realizes that they are unlikely to receive a warm welcome. Taeyang has no idea what these huge creatures are at all. The leader states that there are 3 here, and they must be delivered to the Lord of the Bloody Clouds. The guy had never heard of such a lord before, and the leader orders that the captives' limbs be cut off so that they cannot resist. And one of the monsters intends to carry out his order immediately, and with visible signs of pleasure. However, not all those present agreed with this display of hospitality, and they are not shy about expressing their opinion on this matter. The monster was felled by an arrow to the forehead with one shot. The sound of hooves can be heard. A group of riders appears at the top of the cliff, and the monsters buzz about the appearance of blue people. The riders draw their swords and begin to destroy the creatures. The monsters' heads fly to the ground. In this situation, the leader orders a retreat in order to immediately report everything about the human attack to the Lord of the Bloody Clouds. The horsemen destroy the trap. A red-haired girl in armor greets the player at the war level. Fanged monsters scream in every possible way about the invasion of people and the inevitability of war. They call upon the Lord of the Bloody Clouds to give them an order. The Lord sits beneath the flag that Taeyang initially noticed when he first arrived on this level. He rises from his throne and tells his subjects to prepare, for war is beginning. Crows peck out the eyes of monster corpses. On the way to their camp, the knights explain that for the last few centuries, they have been in constant military conflict with the orcs. The redhead is assigned to rescue players who have joined the battlefield, as is Taeyang and his group. She frees players from captivity before they are taken out of the middle zone. Ian wonders if the redhead ever dated a player named Bella. The rider immediately stops and then offers to go inside and talk there. The rider and John are the first to enter the large camp tent. The guy's eyes bulged out of their sockets when he saw it. The tent contains many beds with wounded, most of whom have amputated or damaged limbs. Solomon clarifies that these are the orc captives rescued by the rider. Lan is horrified by the picture that appears before his eyes. The redhead agrees that everything looks just awful. The boy without legs says Bella's name. Taeyang instantly becomes alert, like a hound scenting game. The wounded man was with Bella until the very end. Jan rushes to him and grabs him by the scruff of the neck, demanding to know what happened to Bella. The rider tries to calm Jan down because the wounded man's condition is not stable. The poor guy bursts into tears and snot, explaining that Bella rushed to protect him, as a result of which she was captured by the orcs. Hearing these words, Taeyang immediately lets go of the wounded man. He just needed to find out where his sister was, whom he himself could save. The redhead screams, "Where is he heading alone?" The guy intends to immediately attack the orc camp. The rider states that this is not a place that can be attacked alone, and that Blood Cloud is located there. The wounded man agrees that Yan alone cannot attack Bloody Cloud. Troops must be gathered. But the guy objects that he is not alone. Redhead and the wounded who are conscious are shouting that 3 of us is impossible madness. We need to make at least a minimal plan of action. Another knight enters and asks Jan to wait. He takes off his helmet, saying that even a lack of haste is no reason to forget about caution. The prisoners sat in the dungeon, supporting each other as best they could. There was a girl crying in the corner, but some people did not sit idle, and he tirelessly and continuously tried to break the bars. The crying girl understood that even if she managed to break the bars, it would be difficult to escape, because orcs were simply swarming outside. She heard the noise of the bars breaking stop and came closer. Bella's hands were covered in blood, but the goal was achieved. The bars of the grate were broken. However, a confident hand prevented the girl from rejoicing loudly. A halo of bright golden light appears around Bella, and the desperate captives recognize the knight by the divine light. Bella tells you to follow her. The blue flag flutters proudly. The foot and mounted knights are ready to march under the leadership of the red-haired one. In front of them, on a hill under a red banner, the orcs are positioned. They are led personally by Lord Bloody Cloud. The knights rush forward on command. The enemies are already waiting. The 2 armies are about to collide. The horses stamp their hooves in anticipation of the fight. The evil orcs growl and spit. Individual contractions begin, the outcome of which is far from always predictable. The orcs are determined to exterminate all humans. The battle is extremely fierce. The red-haired rider mows down enemies like a merciless fury. She shouts to the knights not to surrender, because the only way out for those who wage war is death. The orcs blow their horns. The knights are confused as to what this could mean. A giant orc appears on the battlefield, which simply throws people and horses around like gnats. Taeyang approaches the redhead to find out where Lord Bloodcloud is, and at the same time removes the existence of the giant orc from the agenda. The fight seems pointless to people. Lord Bloodcloud cuts down everyone like an unbridled monster. The leader of the knights approaches him. He asks if the Lord remembers the reason for the war, because people will no longer remember how it all started. But both opponents are determined to put an end to this. The warriors begin a duel to the death. At this time, Bella leads the prisoners through the dungeon. The crying girl is not sure that the path is safe. She wonders if all the people will be able to get out. At this moment, Bella calls out to her, who finds out that the girl is also a knight. True, she is still only a student and has never been on a real battlefield. But Bella notices that, judging by the girl's hands, she has trained a lot. She stands there, not knowing what to expect, and Bella throws the girl a sword and asks for help in ensuring the safety of people, because only the 2 of them can protect the wounded. The girl enthusiastically agrees to help. She will monitor the security of the rear. Suddenly, Bella asks not to make noise. There is a group of orcs ahead along the corridor. The orcs are ordered to all come to the battlefield, even the prison guards, because the appearance of a strange player brings chaos to the usual war. Bella is intrigued by the mention of a strange player. Then more guards run up shouting that the prisoners have escaped. But those who escape are immediately discovered. The orcs are ordered to kill all the captives. Bella tells her student to prepare for battle to protect the lives of the wounded. Lord Bloodcloud kills his human rival. Then he drags his body by the hair and throws it onto the field in front of him. Before the Lord could even move away, Taeyang, who was slowly approaching, called out to him. The guy clarifies that the leader of the orcs is in front of him and tells him to give him Bella. The Lord remains silent, and Taeyang attacks with a series of lightning-fast strikes, to which Bloody Cloud responds equally. The guy is surprised that the Lord's power is not inferior to his own achievements, and Yan is thrown aside by the opponent's blow. Here, Taeyang considers it appropriate to use the lightsaber. But the enemy is not afraid of his attack, to which he immediately responds with an orcish hatchet. The Lord manages to immediately knock the weapon out of Ian's hands, and yet he doesn't look particularly tense. Taeyang is indignant. How could the Lord reflect his sword in a split second? A guy can't lose to just one person, even if that person is stronger than an entire army. Jan rushes at full speed towards his opponent, shouting for him to get out of the way. The boy screams that he must find his sister. Ian runs and punches Lord in the jaw. The guy's blow clearly awakens something in Lord Bloodcloud's head, who suddenly remembers how, long ago, the orc leaders once again came with a report about a human attack. The leaders were outraged that people were neglecting their race and demanded that war be started. But the Lord once again categorically refused, because to act like people means to become like people. Everything should be resolved through dialogue in negotiations. And instead of declaring war, the Lord ordered that a delegation be prepared for negotiations. The chieftains were puzzled as to why the Lord was so friendly to the human race, and Bloody Cloud hurried into the forest at night, where his beloved was waiting for him impatiently, who always asked him with interest about how his day went. And she sympathized with the Lord's intense busyness. His beloved danced for him in the moonlight on a flower meadow. She wove lovely wreaths for her beloved, which the Lord allowed to be worn without hindrance. They were happy in the night forest, away from the eyes of both humans and orcs. The lovers basked in each other's arms, and the Lord dreamed that he would soon create a world in which they would not have to meet in secret. But his beloved was mercilessly, treacherously, and vilely killed. The people left the woman's dead body in the forest and ran away like cowards. The chieftains have no doubt that humans are savages and would kill any human who encounters an orc. The Lord's grief was boundless. He cried his eyes out, and when he was in the depths of endless sadness, a demon approached him. The demon whispered that the Lord could not bear the anger of losing his beloved. A sneaky demon offered a way to bring his dead lover back to life. Thus, the Lord made a contract with the demon and found himself trapped in a level with an eternal, meaningless war. And in the end, he simply forgot his beloved, who was the reason. Lost in his memories, Bloodcloud lost his guard and was pierced through by Taeyang's lightsaber. He looks at the sword sticking out of his chest with confusion. Then he falls to his knees in resignation, saying that he remembered his beloved and fought to avenge her death, but in the end, forgot about her. If Jan were in Lord's place, he would have done the same for the opportunity to see someone dear to his heart. The orcs catch up with the escaped prisoners. Bella already sees the exit ahead and shouts to people that there is only a little bit left. But in front of her, as if from underground, a huge orc appears with an axe raised above his head. Bella realizes that if she dodges the blow, the wounded people behind her will suffer. So Bella is going to take the hit herself. But suddenly, the orc is cut into small pieces by golden rays. Bella can't believe her eyes, because her brother is standing in the exit doorway with a sword in his hands. Taeyang feels that if he were Lord Bloodcloud, he would definitely do the same thing to see the one he cares about. Since the death of their parents, Bella and her brother were left alone in this world. Bella spent years suffering the pain of loss, curled up in her bed, her brother calling her to breakfast. And the sleepy girl went out into the kitchen, where her heart desperately wanted to see the familiar picture. Her mother with a saucepan in her hands, and her father and brother waiting for food. But there was only Jan, who had set the table just for the two of them. It was painful not to see my parents in such a familiar setting, and Bella asked for forgiveness, but ate breakfast separately, hiding from the world in her room. The girl had no choice in life, but she had the opportunity to escape from painful reality. So Bella escaped into the virtual reality world of Dantaliana. The girl chose the paladin class, and now in front of her, is her brother Yan, who actually saved her life. The red-haired warrior mourns the loss of her comrade and commander. Lord Bloodcloud personally ends his long-suffering life's journey. The system reports that the enemy commanders have met their end. The next message states that with the death of the commanders comes the end of war, number 1470. The defeated side retreats, passing on experience to the winning side, who will respawn in their camp. The system reports that the Demon King is descending to take the souls of the defeated side. Bella can't believe that her brother also ended up in Dantalion. Jan came to save his sister. He and Xena were worried that something might happen to Bella, and Ian couldn't just stay away. Therefore, Jan asks his sister for forgiveness and wants her to come back with him. Bella is already reaching out her hand to her brother, when suddenly something digs into her chest. Then the same beam kills the wounded, and the girl to whom Bella gave the sword. Belez descended upon the battlefield. Bella's virtual reality capsule signals the player's critical condition. Xena doesn't understand what's happening. Before the eyes of the astonished Taiyang, all the prisoners and wounded that Bella was leading out were killed, mowed down by a strange beam. And the Grim Reaper with his scythe prances on his horse, collecting souls, which flow into his hands from everywhere. The Demon King Belez uses souls to restore himself and ponders what to create. A frozen territory or one with cannibal monsters? Taiyang's lightsaber, who looks simply mad. Lan senses through the wind that something is coming. The magician has a feeling that Jan is in danger, and this wind is approaching them. Taiyang cuts off the head of the Demon King Belez. A terrible roar is heard throughout the level. An aura so oppressive arises that it becomes difficult to even just raise your head. It seems as if death itself is descending on the battlefield. Belez's body with a glowing neck proclaims that his appearance cannot be called loud. But the demonic Scythe Rider is emitting such powerful energy that Taiyang is simply thrown aside. At first, a bunch of laughing skulls flutter above the king's missing head, which are drawn into the neck until only the skull remains, laughing with all its shark teeth, like, I haven't seen a facial expression like Jan's for a long time. The guy is in shock, and Bella's soul is flowing out of her body right before his eyes, and rushes after the Grim Reaper. Taiyang flies after him. The guy screams for the demon to return Bella's soul, to which he unsuccessfully reaches out his hands. The scythe-wielding rider stands still, watching the man run a short distance. Even his horse pricks up his ears. With a completely carefree smile, Belez clarifies that this is all the guy needs, and he orders to take it, without any embarrassment. The skull becomes gigantic, and rays shoot out of its eye sockets. Jan's hair literally stands on end. The number of souls inside the skull is beyond imagination. These souls scream in pain or beg for help, and some are in their death throes. And the whole barrage of memories of people in their last moments before death falls like an avalanche on Taiyang. The Demon King Belez sits like a statue on his steed, and she only asks if the guy agrees that the feeling is amazing. It is believed that the louder the soul screams, the tastier it is. The Grim Reaper wants to tell Ian a story. Earthlings call people who come to Dantalion players. Belez wonders where Jan thinks the people who died in Dantalion go. To the digital cemetery, to heaven, or to hell. But this is not true. People remain forever locked in this game world and become its materials. Jan doesn't understand what it means to become material. Belez reminds us of the levels the guy has already played. All these levels are created from the souls of the players who died here. These players sacrifice themselves for a reason. The game promises them individual delights of an unimaginable scale. Some are seduced by wealth or honor, others by endless power. For some, the game promises to bring the dead back to life. But Belez knows for sure that people are gullible idiots, who are happy to risk everything for the sake of abstract promises. Belez's level is an endless war zone where he collects the souls of the losers, and the souls of the winners go back into battle. True, today both commanders of the warring sides died unexpectedly. But even this does not disappoint Belez, who uses their souls to create an even more amazing level. He is dying to see what kind of level this will be. And what kind of soul will it be that a guy needs so much? Belle's soul looks like her in-game character and glows with a steady, powerful golden light. Taeyang demands to be released from the captivity of alien souls who are reaching out with greedy paws to him. Souls swirl around the guy in a column and scream that they don't want to die. Ian understands that the Demon Kings perceive players solely as their own personal, powerless toys. But Bella's soul radiates a golden glow, like a guiding star. Taeyang sees his sister's silhouette and strives to get closer to her soul. He doesn't understand how she could have been used in this way. The Grim Reaper watches what is happening with interest. Ian takes up the light blade, and at the same time, dragon traits begin to appear in him. Velez takes the metamorphosis of his opponent with delight, finding the opportunity to clash with a half-human dragon astonishing. Taeyang, meanwhile, attacks. Velez parries all blows. The Grim Reaper knows that Balrog should have given the boy a head start in the previous battle, according to the rules of demons. But there are also rules at this level. Velez raises his scythe. He's here to take the boy's soul. Because Taeyang lost the war, waves of energy emanate from the death scythe in all directions. Meanwhile, the knights continue their eternal war with the orcs. And the orcs are having a hard time. Our crafter actively contributes to the course of the battle. Next to him is Lan, and the red-haired warrior with the body of her commander. Taeyang is fighting against now, because Belez looks demonically frightening, and he wields his scythe incredibly skillfully. But Yan does not give in to the demonic enemy, which has already hit him several times. The body burns as if on fire at the cut sites. In addition, Belez says that the Grim Reaper's scythe is capable of destroying even souls, so the guy is probably in pain. The Demon King wonders what it feels like to have one's soul ripped from one's still-living body. Young Taeyang seemed to be completely enveloped in blazing fire, but nevertheless, he is full of determination. The guy attacks, and Belez is calmly surprised that Yan uses the dragon's heart to heal the cracks in his soul. That is, the man is trying to harness the power of the dragon. The Demon King does not reflect the guy's attack. The lightsabers enter precisely between the eye sockets of the skull. Taeyang jumps aside. Belez explains that Yang just released the soul of a soldier who died 45 years ago. Jan's next blow releases the soul of an orc who died under torture 98 years ago. Then the soul of a human soldier who was crushed by a tank 230 years ago is released. Belez laughs and offers to chop off souls as the guy pleases. Because the number of souls that Belez can use as a shield is incalculable. There is even one unusual soul. The guy is stunned because Belez's skull takes on the features of Bella's character, recognizable even in the demonic interpretation. The system reports that the lightsabers have been destroyed. Belez knows that lightsabers were capable of cutting through anything. He wonders if John knows what kind of sword existed before that. Taeyang is laid on his shoulder blades. The scythe cuts through many souls, but is unable to cut that sword. The guy asks Belez to save Bella from this, but he only sees a shark's smile and hears like, "What wonderful people are." The Demon Kings can't take their eyes off the fight. They are drunk with anticipation, and they ask Belez to quickly bring the soul of Yan Taeyang. Before they had time to sober up, everyone is waiting for the final of the fight, which is practically a foregone conclusion. Bella's soul is already looking at her brother. At first, Bella didn't understand where she was, but then she remembered how she was suddenly stabbed with something. Bella sadly reflects that she died without being able to complete the game. But then she hears her brother's cry, demanding her return. Bella wonders if this is really what she thinks about after her death. The girl's soul sees the Grim Reaper bending over her brother. The blade of the terrible scythe is already entering the guy's chest. Bella immediately instinctively rushes towards Ian, who is in mortal danger. But suddenly dark bonds tightly wrap around her leg, and then her entire ghostly body. Bella breaks free and screams to be let go. At first, she decides to calm down, but she immediately realizes that the lack of resistance only makes things worse. Suddenly, someone extends a hand to her. A knight's apprentice comes to the rescue. Bella is surprised that the girl who was sobbing in the corner of the cell is now willing to lend a helping hand. The student pulls with all her might, saying that Bella must not lose her light. At that moment, the girl herself seemed to remember her light and began to shine like the sun. The Demon King raises his scythe for the killing blow. Belez believes that Taeyang's soul is already fully mature. The Grim Reaper intends to savor it with pleasure. But with great surprise, Belez feels that someone is pulling his scythe to the other side, preventing him from striking. No matter how hard the Demon King tries, he cannot overcome the resistance. Belez is furious. Is it really true that the souls of the dead are now arbitrarily escaping from the prison of souls? At the head of the escapees is Bella's soul, who claims that escaping from prisons is one of her strengths. Belez gnashes his teeth in impotent rage as the escaped souls wrap themselves around his arms and legs. Bella immediately rushes to her brother, and she says point blank, "Why is he sitting here while they beat him like a loser?" She thought her brother was a champion of virtual reality combat games. Jan asks smilingly that it turns out his sister watched his matches. She immediately denies it, saying that she only watched it sometimes because there was nothing else to watch on YouTube. Bella is determined to teach Belez a lesson. Jan is not entirely confident in the success of his plan. The sister extends her hand to him, illuminating him with her sunny radiance. It's as if the sun itself is shining over the reunited family. The Demon King rages and screams that such absurdity is simply impossible, and that the vile souls must be returned back to prison. But the guy expresses his disagreement with a juicy blow to the Demon King's jaw. Kama, hovering next to Taeyang, demands that the bony freak immediately return her beautiful body. The fist of the guy, whose sister's soul burns like a star on his forehead, hits the royal jaw again. Belez is so outraged by the illogicality of what is happening. A man is capable of hitting him, that he doesn't even defend himself. Jan doesn't waste time on such thoughts, but beats the enemy while he has the opportunity. Bella screams. This was possible because her spirit entered her brother, who has his own opinion on this matter and believes that everything works out because his fist hits. The blow literally slams the Demon King into the ground. Suddenly the guy freezes. It is Belle's soul inside his brother that admires the power with which he fights, under his indignant demands to concentrate and not take stupid poses. An indignant royal cry comes from under the rubble. How dare a mortal put him, Belez, in such a stupid position? Souls are flocking to the rubble from all sides. Belez appears in a form woven from countless absorbed souls and threatens to absorb the boy down to the very essence of his soul. At the same time, the souls of the doomed do not seem at all happy with their fate. The brother and sister realize that Belez has absorbed all the souls he had. The Demon King swings his arm for a crushing blow, but against common sense, Bella asks her brother not to dodge the blow. Sister asks to trust her. A powerful blow is heard. Taeyang opens his eyes, levitating in a strange space. Bella immediately appears nearby and explains that they are now inside the Belez soul prison. The guy is grabbed by the legs by the souls, which he is trying to get rid of. The sister assures that everything is fine. You just need to give up your body. Bella hears the voices of souls that will not harm them. The guy decides not to argue with his newfound sister. Souls move them somewhere down. The guy feels like he is sinking deeper and deeper into something. There is pitch darkness all around, and the only source of light is the soul of his sister, which he follows as if it were a guiding star. Belez's figure looks much less threatening here. The Demon King screams that the boy will not go down any lower. But the guy follows his star even further. They see something ahead. Bella tells them to hurry. It's Belez's soul. The system reports that the Demon King Belez is invading young Taeyang's memories. Moments from early childhood flash before Jan's eyes, when their parents were still alive. The memories are displayed in a chaotic order on the monitors in front of which Taeyang stands. The guy is outraged that the demon is digging around in his head. Bella also sees childhood memories, and suddenly she realizes that since the death of her parents, she has been running away all the time. But only now did she come to understand. Every time she ran away, her brother would wait for her faithfully outside the door. Bella is not alone. She offers to finish this battle together. The brother readily accepts her proposal, with the amendment that I would like to finish this quickly. The guy raises his fist, and his body levitates above the planet, woven from the memories of their childhood. Demon King Belez simply doesn't believe what's happening. Two creatures are about to deliver one extremely powerful blow at the same time. Yang and the spirit of his sister. The Grim Reaper is outraged because man cannot defeat him. But then comes the impact and the explosion. Memories shatter into pieces like a broken mirror.